Welcome to another reaction stream ahead of Game Week 26. We still have 2 more games left in double/blank Game Week 25, which has been a week to forget for many of us, including myself. And I was never really that confident or comfortable with the transfer of Harry Kane out for Darwin Nunez, but I had to, unfortunately, to fund other moves. But there you go. Let's see what happens in the second round of games there, with Liverpool versus Wolves and Arsenal versus Everton. We just had the Carabao Cup final, Newcastle versus Man United, and we also had Tottenham against Chelsea. So some big games today, and we still got a lot of big games left until the end of the season. Let's talk about it. Any more plans, our initial thoughts heading into Game Week 26, and also reacting to Game Week 25 so far. So I'll go through your questions and comments as always. It could be a bit of a shorter stream anyway, but it's good to see people here anyway. Thank you, FPL Seb. Good to see you. And thank you, John. Yeah, it was a forgettable one, and I wasn't really expecting anything else than a Man United win. And it would have been nice to see an upset, but it just wasn't meant to be. I hope not. I think it should be between Arsenal and Man City, but let's wait and see. Man United are in the conversation, but whenever they seem to have a really good chance of getting right into the title mix, they seem to slip up a little bit. Let's see what happens, though. They're definitely the informed team in England right now. Welcome, John. Professional performance by United today, but that's all about there is to say. Yeah, I agree. Newcastle, I think, had a positive start to the game, but just in those crucial moments, United took the chances and Newcastle didn't. The Law Sod out in Forces Game Week, says Greg Williams. Yeah, potentially. I mean, this has been a week to forget, I think, for many of us. 61 points so far. That's a really good score, I think, all things considered. 45 minus 4. I think that's a good score too. I'm pretty sure that'd be a green arrow around your rank. Definitely not, as bad as a 29 for me. Welcome, Neil. 33 points this week. Fingers crossed for the remainder. Still 2 games left, and a lot of us have 5 or 6 of these Arsenal and Liverpool players, not to mention maybe 1 or 2 of these Wolves or Everton assets. So I think we're in decent stead for at least a green arrow from our current position. Not overall, though, in some situations. Which Brighton midfielder would you bring in? Still Matoma. I like McAllister in general, but FPL-wise, I would have more confidence in March and Matoma, with Matoma being the best of the lot. Getting Watkins and we won. Yep. He's been in great form recently. I wasn't expecting it. 5 games in a row, and that's a new record there for Aston Villa. He's got some good fixtures coming up, no blanks, also a double in 29. There's so much to like. And now I want to ask you lot, which 3 forwards do you want? Because we've got Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney. Remember, Ivan Toney has a double in 27. You've also got Watkins having a double in 29. So which one of those 4 forwards do you leave out? It's going to be tricky, and a lot of us might have to go without Kane because of budget reasons, and I think just to cover all the doubles and blanks, because remember, Harry Kane, as good as the fixtures are over the next 6 or 7, there are no doubles there for Spurs. Had to go for Van Dijk due to shortage of funds. Didn't pay off too badly, though. Maximum bonus points. I was very frustrated because obviously I brought in Robertson to see him get a yellow card in the 93rd minute, and yeah, he lost out on all those bonus points and also, of course, got 5 in the end. But yeah, fair play. Van Dijk obviously got the 9, and he could be a decent option as well heading into the Wolves game at home. So you could see a decent haul there. Double-digit return, so you can't complain about that too much. Same as before, Harry Kane is so consistent. He always ticks along nicely. And yeah, I mean, he's just so consistent this season. He scored in the reverse fixture against Chelsea and also against his upcoming opponents in Wolves. And honestly, all of the games coming up, you can see him scoring. Obviously, there will be some blanks along the way, but not too many. He's only blanked 4 or 5 times this season, I think. He's been absolutely incredible, and he's actually on course for maybe a personal best in his FPL career. And I think in the first 25 game weeks, he's already set a personal best. So he's definitely having a really good season, despite Spurs being a bit inconsistent. Welcome, Dutta, 31 points. Trent could have had 15. Yeah, Jordan Henderson blocked that. It looked like it was going in by Trent. That's a really good point. Yeah, that's the thing. This week has just been full of frustrations and maybe 50-50s or just a bit of bad luck the other way. But a lot of us are struggling, and look, there's still 2 games to go, but still not too bad. I think the most important thing is how we get out of this situation in the weeks to come. Do you think Game Week 26 wildcard is a good idea? I have considered it. That is a good point. I'm 81k overall, trying to define my rank at this point. Yeah, I can see what you mean. I'm still looking at potentially using it in Game Week 27. Game Week 26 could be a bit awkward in a way, but I can see why you'd want to use it. It all depends on your team situation. You might want to get someone like Harry Kane in your team, Ollie Watkins, and also get rid of 5, 6, 7 players, which may include these Everton or Wolves assets that you brought in this week. And in that situation, I think a Game Week 26 wildcard is advisable, but it's difficult for me to say without knowing your entire squad. 47 minus 8, 39. Pretty decent, I'd say. I think you should have a green arrow around your rank. And of course, still 2 games to go. 45 points so far, and still Trent, Salah, Nketiah, Odegaard, and White left. Yeah, that should be a decent score in the end, 60 plus. And if your captain, whether it's Salah or someone else, gets a haul, that will boost it, and potentially a 70 or 80 pointer as well. Yeah, Darwin, I'll be honest, I never really like him as an FPL option. And obviously, Ollie Watkins is probably the safer pick overall, but I am more leaning towards a early wildcard in Game Week 27. But yeah, Darwin I was never comfortable with. I think the injury in the first game is obviously unlucky, but in general, he isn't a really good FPL option. Thoughts on James in because of good fixtures? Honestly, I just don't see myself spending so much on a Chelsea defender. They still have a decent defence, don't get me wrong, and if I were to go for any assets from Chelsea, it'd be Kepa Arrizabalaga or a defender, but I don't think I'd go for Reece James. He's still so injury-prone, there are so many doubts about his fitness all the time, and if he can get a run of games going, that's good, but then he could easily get injured again, so at the moment, I'd say no. If you wanted to go for a Chelsea kind of player, it'd be Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal. And I would have said Badiashile, but he was left out today for some strange reason, which I'm still perplexed by. Should I keep Felix or bring Watkins? I'd bring in Watkins, to be fair, especially if you're not wildcarding soon. He ticks so many boxes. He's got the double in 29, doesn't blank in 28, good fixtures all round, so I probably would bring him in, actually. Welcome, Mr. Iceman. 45 points with no hits, decent, and unexpected clean sheet from a Palace defender. B+ game week for me. Yeah, that's all things considered pretty good, and I didn't expect the Palace clean sheet despite Liverpool's struggles. I thought Liverpool would score, even if they drop points. But yeah, there you go. These things can happen, and I think Liverpool was struggling a little bit. Klopp said as well in his press conference from the Real Madrid game, both mentally and physically, I'd say. 54 minus 4 as of now, Captain Saka. It's good to see some of you doing pretty well this week, all things considered. As you can see, in my situation so far, pretty bad, but it's good to see some decent scores there, like from Bridgerton. And Captain Saka, it wasn't his best game against Leicester, I will say that, but a bit unlucky not to get a huge haul. There was a clear penalty denied for Arsenal, and it was Saka who won the penalty as well. Of course, you can't get the assist and the goal, but still. And also, he had that goal disallowed, but some people are saying, and I'm not sure if they're right, but that Martinelli was onside in the build-up and they didn't actually show a replay with the lines. Now, when I first saw it, I thought it was close, but I thought Martinelli was off. But really, on another day, Saka gets a huge return, despite not really having the best game overall. Tony, Watkins and Haaland is the best trio. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I still like Harry Kane a lot, though. And in terms of premiums, he'd be my favourite over Salah and all these other options like De Bruyne. But what Salah has in his favour is the doubles, of course. The one now in 25 and in 29. And he could potentially feature in 28. Yeah, Mahrez needs to go now. He's been a great option when he starts, and in the second half of the season, he's been integral to Man City and also in the Champions League. But this is the problem. When the Champions League comes around, Mahrez just doesn't get the minutes. He starts to see a reduction in his minutes in the Premier League, and it is just so frustrating. Yeah, Martinelli's back 2-2. He was actually having a poor game in the first half against Leicester, but then just that one moment of quality, that link up with Trossard, and that's what I mean about that front three for Arsenal. Having Trossard, Martinelli and Saka, it can be dynamic, and it definitely played a part in that goal. But yeah, Martinelli is obviously always a threat, but I'd say his overall performances still haven't been that great. I think he was actually more positive against Aston Villa. Welcome, Harry. Red Arrow made the bold choice to go Kane to Watkins over Darwin this week. No, that's still pretty good. Of course, Darwin could do well in the second game, but I'd still rather have Watkins going forward, so I think that's a good transfer. Buying Nketiah, at this point, definitely not. He's just lost his position. There's no guarantee he comes back into the side in the second game, and also Gabriel Jesus is quite close to return. Maybe not quite there just yet, but just a few weeks away, I'd say. So Nketiah is not a buy right now. I would have bought him ahead of Game Week 25, but certainly not at this point, considering all the information we have at this stage now. Keep or sell Felix? Look, I think Felix could become a good option one day, but I would sell him to either Ivan Toney or Watkins or even Harry Kane if you can. But I think it's quite clear who the 4 best forwards in the game are right now, and Felix isn't part of it. I would just sell him because you look at Chelsea, they've scored 4 goals in the last 10 games, something ridiculous like that. It's just simply not good enough, and I just can't bring myself to bring in a Chelsea attacker. Spurs came a double in Game Week 29. That is a possibility. That is true. And that would be another reason to add him. I think that's the only fixture that could be added to Game Week 29 involving Spurs. So that's a good point. And that would obviously just boost his appeal. And I'd probably want to get him in ASAP. How about Wilson? Newcastle don't have blanks. They don't, but I still would rather go for those 4 forwards I mentioned. Harry Kane, of course, Erling Haaland, everyone has. Watkins and Ivan Toney. And I also think they're all more consistent and reliable. With Callum Wilson, he's also a bit like Reece James, very injury prone. And Newcastle, maybe a bit similar to Chelsea as well, aren't scoring enough goals. And they've been on a bit of a bad run, I'd say. Not too many wins, a lot of draws, and also a couple of losses in recent games to Liverpool and now Man United today. So it's not a bad option, but I think there's still 4 or 5 better forwards to buy right now. So I wouldn't go for Callum Wilson. Will Darwin play the second match? I think he will, but that's maybe more in hope than maybe facts or logic. We don't have anything to go by, but my current prediction and also what I felt before the game is that Darwin will play the second game. Would you sell Nketiah? That's a difficult one. I would definitely reassess after the Leicester game, after the Everton game, should I say. We already got the Leicester one. After that, then I think you'll have a better idea. But in general, I wouldn't say Nketiah's completely lost his spot yet, but it doesn't bode well for the future. He's already been dropped, and you've also got Trossard and Martinelli combining well for that goal. Not to mention Jesus is only a few weeks away, maybe a month or so, from coming back into the squad and maybe potentially into the starting 11 again. That would be huge for Arsenal. So would I sell Nketiah? Not right now, but if he's dropped again for Everton, then I think that's a huge sign, and I'd potentially then move on to an Ivan Toney or Ollie Watkins. Trent could have had 15. Yeah, I agree. Chelsea are a joke. Let me just get this comment up. And of course, thank you to everyone who's tuning in. I'll be getting through your questions and comments very soon. Yeah, Chelsea, I mean, what to say? Normally they do very well against Spurs, but with their recent record, Graham Potter struggles. I was actually predicting a Spurs win. No surprises there. It was a bit more comprehensive in terms of the scoreline than I thought. I thought it'd be maybe by a goal, 2-1 or 1-0. But there you go. Chelsea right now are in their banter era stage. Watkins or Toney? Over the course of the season, I still think Tony's been more consistent, but you have to consider recent form. And given all the circumstances, I'd say Ivan Toney is probably slightly a worse option than Watkins, because Watkins also has the fixture confirmed in 28, and he's been in excellent form. Better fixtures, arguably, as well. So it's close, but I'd just about go for Ollie Watkins. How many Brentford and Brighton players would you bring in if you were to wildcard? So if I wildcard in Game Week 26 and also trying to set my team up for Game Week 27, I wouldn't have triple ups in both. I think 2 from each is fine at the maximum. So Estupinian and Matoma, and then from Brentford's perspective, probably Ben Mee and Ivan Toney. I wouldn't go for more than that. You could also consider Ryan goal, who's been one of the best goalkeepers all season, but that's about it. I definitely wouldn't go for a triple up for both. Lucky didn't fall into the trap of Nunez. There's still a game to go, but in general, I think Nunez is a trap or not a great FPL option. I think just the reasons I got him in was to fund the other moves, and also he was showing some good form, but it definitely was frustrating. Darwin not playing the next fixture. Like I said, we don't have any information to go by, but I think he will come back in the side. If he's fit, he's going to start. He's been in good form recently. It's tough because really I thought Badiashile would be nailed on in the Premier League, and he might still be, but honestly, we just don't know Potter as well and the whole situation. But I still think he'll come back in the side in the next game. I'm just really perplexed why he was benched in the first place. Yeah, congratulations, AJ, winning the Carabao Cup against Newcastle and still in the other 3 competitions as well. And I wonder what Man United fans are thinking in terms of what would they class as a successful season, because they've already got the trophy, broken one of their major trophy droughts in the last 50 years, but they could still win another trophy. I think Europa League is what they should really target. They're the favourites for that competition. Premier League might be a step too far, and also you look at the FA Cup, maybe that is also a bit of a step too far, but United are definitely capable of winning all of them. Do I think they'll win the quadruple? No, but it's definitely possible. Soufal was the one that broke my heart going off at half-time. That's what I mean. This week has just been full of it. And what a surprise, by the way. Probably the biggest shock for me of the whole weekend was the 4-0 win for West Ham. I was not expecting that based on recent form, but there you go. Yeah, that's just really bad luck, to be honest. I changed Mahrez to Grealish because of low budget, but suddenly Grealish plays in Mahrez sub. Yeah, and look, Grealish has been great recently, but as an FPL option, I still don't trust him, and Mahrez is the better one of the two. But ultimately, with Man City assets, it's just Haaland, and that's about it, really, at the moment. 41 so far with 7 players to play second fixtures. Yeah, look, things might not be looking too good right now, but it could easily change by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday. So still a long way to go, of course, technically, with all these players at our disposal. But yeah, 41 still not too bad, I'd say. Liverpool are a worry. This is not a team I want to be invested in, of course. And I've been saying this all the time. And yet I went for the triple up myself, just really targeting this double. And now I'm kind of dead-ending myself into a wild card very soon because I don't want to start all of these Liverpool players against Man United, who will be the favourites in that game. Well, Cucurella's been in awful form, and I'm not surprised he didn't start. Chilwell is the better option. And whenever he's fit, he's going to start over Cucurella. But yeah, he's just a sell. If you have Cucurella still, I'd sell him. I know they've got a Leeds fixture coming up very soon, which looks decent, but yeah, he's just a sell, and I wouldn't go for him again. He's been an awful FPL option. I can go with 8 players in Game Week 28 without free hit. Is it good? Yeah, provided you have most of the key assets playing in Game Week 28, so the Arsenal, Newcastle players as well. But yeah, that's pretty decent. And with these free hits, I mean, look, let's think about it. With the free hit this week, for example, I mean, how many free hitters are doing well? As a result of playing the chip? Not that many. And sometimes you have these low-scoring weeks and there's blanks, and the free hit doesn't really gain you too much. So I think that's pretty decent, provided you have most of the key options. Mars for Matoma, yeah, I think that's a pretty simple move. And you also open up a lot of budget, and you could potentially go to Harry Kane up front, or have that front three you desire with Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney. Welcome high. I got 56, minus 12 points. I want my gut this week. I got Tottenham defenders and I got Watkins. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, Chelsea don't score goals. Getting a Tottenham defender looks decent, and they've got great fixtures. And Watkins, he's been in great form, so that's a really good purchase. I like that one especially, so good stuff. Recommended defender from 5.9 and below. That's going to be tricky. Usually we've got Trippier and Shaw to list off, but not maybe the best time to buy them in. 5.9 million and below. I'd say Stupinian or Ben Mee, especially with Game Week 27 in mind. So I sold Kane for Darwin and Mitro for Watkins. I don't need to reverse that Kane move, right? I mean, honestly, even if Darwin played the first game and hauled, going into Game Week 26 and beyond, I'd rather have Harry Kane. So it was always kind of a one-week purchase, in my opinion, and I would probably try to get Harry Kane back in. You don't necessarily need to in Game Week 26 or have to take hits to do so, but I would try to get Kane back in for Darwin, yeah. In the replay of Saka disallowed goal, no lines were drawn, had Martinelli as well. Yeah, that's what I mean. It looked offside to me, and I wasn't complaining too much of that decision, but the fact they didn't show a replay and they didn't put lines was very, very strange. I actually didn't see a replay of the disallowed goal. I was so mad when City lost their clean sheet. I had Rico Lewis. Yeah, Ake owners will finally feel a bit of joy. He came off just before City conceded. Keep Kulusevski. I'd still sell. He's been playing all right. I think today he had a decent game, but doesn't really seem anywhere near these goals and assists, really. So from Spurs, the only attack I'd go for is Harry Kane. Selling Nketiah for Watkins this week? I think so, but once again, reassess. Don't do it just yet. Wait for the next game Arsenal play against Everton at home, and then you can make a final decision, because if Nketiah starts, then you'd probably be inclined to keep him for at least one more week. I have Kane, Haaland, but no money for Toney. Can Mbeumo replace him? I think he can, but I'd rather go for Toney. In a double game week or even just in a single one, I'd always back Ivan Toney. I know Mbeumo sometimes has these 12 pointers in him, but Ivan Toney for me all day long. But the only concern I would have with Toney is the yellow cards. He's 2 yellows away from suspension. Darwin is a clown, says Reader. Yeah, I mean, look, he's a young player. I think he'll come good, but there are definitely some things he can iron out, and obviously very unlucky to miss out this week when he's just about reaching form. Kind of sums up his Liverpool career so far. I have Kane, Haaland, but no money for Toney. Oh, yeah, I just read out, sorry. Would you go light in Game Week 28 to use 3 and 29, as the upside is with all the doublers is more points lost than 26? It can go both ways, because in a high-scoring game week like 29, you could still score a lot of points without the free hit. So it's just a balance you need to kind of strike, and you have to look at your team structure and decide what is best for my team. Do I free hit in this game week in 28 and then have one free transfer in 29, or do you do it the other way and have more free transfers heading into 29? I mean, it's a difficult balance to strike, but I think there's definitely a debate to be had there. And I always talk about this. You don't need to just free hit in a blank game week. You can also do it in a double game week, because you maybe have a high ceiling as well. So at the moment, if I had to favor one, it would be blank game week 28 to use the free hit, but it also is team dependent. Hi Dylan, what to do with Kepa? Yeah, that is true. I still like Kepa as an option, but when you've got Raya having a double in 27 and Brentford have been in great form, they haven't lost a game in a few months now in the Premier League, then you'd rather go in that direction. But I still like Kepa. He's in my top 3 goalkeepers still, but it's definitely a concern. I think Chelsea also were a bit unfortunate to lose Thiago Silva in the game, and also the decision to drop Badiashile was very strange. I think once you have Thiago Silva and Badiashile as the centre-back partnership, I think Chelsea will keep more clean sheets, especially with some of their games coming up. Would you buy Toney and McAllister, but only have 7 or 8 in 28? I like Tony, but I'd rather go for Matoma than McAllister. So those are two good purchases. And if you only can get to 8 in 28, I think that's fine at this moment in time. But of course, we'll have more information about the FA Cup over the next few days. We've got the FA Cup coming up now and how that will impact Blank Gaming 28. And maybe there's the possibility you have more than that, actually, once we have all the games underway and we see what happens. Selling Kane will prove to be a major mistake. You'll probably need to wildcard as soon. Yeah, obviously, I knew that. And really, the main reason was to get Salah and Robertson in for this week. Of course, I always knew it. I said it in the stream as soon as I made the move. I just didn't like it at all. I was pondering it, overthinking it a lot, and I didn't want to do it. But ultimately, it is what it is. And I could still get Watkins in for Darwin. It's not the end of the world, but I think a wildcard could be plausible for my team very soon. Feeling better after seeing your points. Oh, thank you. At least someone is enjoying that. Didn't have my eye on Emerson Real at 4.9, possibly for Robertson. He has been in great form. I said this even a few weeks ago against the likes of Fulham away. He was one of Spurs' best players, if not their best. And he's keeping Pedro Porro out of the side, who every Spurs fan was clamouring for a right wing-back to be signed because they hate Emerson. And now look how he's performing. So I think that could be a decent option, yeah? I think that's a decent choice. But when you've got Estupinian and Benmi in Game 27, not to mention all the doublers in 29, it might be at the lower end of your agenda and you might not prioritise getting a Spurs defender. Yeah, Spurs defenders are options, and I know they've been decent recently, keeping a few clean sheets, but it can go both ways. They're still missing Bentancur. I think that's a huge loss for them. But yeah, they are an option, of course. If City go out FA Cup, we are favourites to win. Yeah, I'd say so. You probably are as well, but I still don't think it's as simple as that. And do United have the squad depth to win the league, or at least go all the way in the title race, win the FA Cup and Europa League? I'm not so sure, but I think United will win one more trophy this season. Yeah, I think so as well. Let's wait and see. And he could maybe haul. That's what we're hoping for anyway. Dylan, what would you do with Mount and Felix going to the Leeds game? I have both of them in my team. I definitely sell Mount, that's for sure. And with Felix, whether you keep him for one more week, that's fine. But ultimately in Game Week 27, you'd want to get Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins for their double. Obviously, Watkins in the double in 29. So, yeah, I would look to move them on, but Mount is the priority sell. Welcome, Lungani. What to do if Eddie Nketiah, as his minutes are not nailed and is not effective on the pitch? Yeah, he's been having a bit of a rough patch since his brace against Man United, and he has been frustrating, but I think it was pretty decent when he came on yesterday against Leicester. Did a decent job holding up the ball. It was quite sharp, but is he going to start against Everton? I don't think so, based on the last lineup. I actually thought Nketiah would start both games heading into this double. Didn't happen. But I think it'll be Trossard, Martinelli and Saka once again against Everton. And if that's the case, then I think it would be quite an easy sell to Ollie Watkins or Ivan Toney. Should I get rid of Trent? I'm not so sure about that. I think I'd keep him. With Liverpool assets, apart from Salah, Trent would still be second best there, along with maybe Robertson. So I'd probably keep him for now. Of course, maybe against Man United you bench him, but in the games afterwards you could start him all the way up until double game at 29 and then potentially sell afterwards. Would you get rid of Salah for Kane if you wildcard in Game Week 26? That is a good question. I think if I were to wildcard, I would try to find a way to have both of them in. Salah has the double in 29 and could still put in a big performance in Game Week 25 to really make me assured of that. And Harry Kane has been so consistent. Without doubles, it doesn't really matter. I'd like him in my team until the end of the season. Yeah, I think it is viable, for sure. But I am looking at Game Week 27 potentially because it could also influence your thinking. And maybe with Game Week 27, you can strike a balance of these Brentford and Brighton assets as well. Sold Martinelli this week. Should I bring him back? No, I wouldn't bring him back necessarily. I still prefer Odegaard and Saka. Super regret that ended up buying Darwin with a -4. One Trippier to Mikalenko move is already okay. Yeah, a lot of us did that Darwin move for a hit. And look, with Harry Kane, it was always potentially going to backfire. There's still another game for Darwin to make up for it. But yeah, it is what it is. I think the Darwin injury in the first game was super unlucky. Welcome, Elias. Priority transfer, Walker to Stupinian, Andreas Maris to Matoma, or Mitrovic to Watkins. From those options, I think Mitrovic to Watkins looks really solid. To be fair, you could, obviously, I can see why you're asking that question. All of those are really good transfers. But in terms of priority, I think for Game Week 26, it would be Mitrovic to Watkins. Then I'd do the midfielder transfer and then the defender one. That's what I would do. And by Game Week 27, you could take a hit, maybe 2 hits, but I think it is worth it to get those players in. Got a -8 for Tarkowski and Nunez, and damn it hurt. So did I. Yeah, I think the Tarkowski move is actually one I'm regretting a little bit more because I would like to keep Shaw for Game Weeks 26 and 27. That is the move I think that maybe was a bit worse for me. Marcel, I'd say so. Now look, Man City are still in the title race, of course. They're just behind Arsenal. And to keep the pressure on them, I think Mahrez needs to start. So, yeah, he's still a decent option, of course, if he gets the starts, but I think his minutes are just too much of a concern, and there are so many midfielders to go to. Triple United after the amazing display of drip we just witnessed, so good. Yeah, no, I completely agree. If it wasn't for the possible blank in Game Week 28. Having a great game week, my rank gone from 54k to 30. Good stuff, and like I said, it's actually quite surprising and also good to see so many of you doing well. Maybe it was just me who did badly, but it's good to see. Some good news is I think Odegaard isn't showing his FPL form in recent games and keeping Martinelli up to now. Yeah, the thing is with Odegaard, I even said this heading into this game, Odegaard's been having some decent games like against Brentford, but he's still not looking that likely to get the goals and assists. I prefer him over Martinelli just because he's more nailed on, better for bonus points and a few other factors, but yeah, I think Saka's probably the best of the lot now. Welcome, Dave. Good to see you. Should have got White. I mean, look, with Ben White, it wouldn't surprise me if Tomiyasu came into the side at some point and made that right-back position his own. So with White, I'm not so sure about that. There's so many good Arsenal defenders. Saliba, Gabriel, who got all bonus points this week. You've got Zinchenko constantly getting 7-pointers. I think you just pick one Arsenal defender and stick to them, really. Welcome, John Darren. Yep, Darwin is an FPL troll. I think that was established long ago, but yeah, this week is just really, really annoying. Chelsea fixture's good, 4 home games and 5 games in the next 4 game weeks, but is there anyone you'd invest in? Just Kepa Arrizabalaga and maybe Badiashile, despite the fact he was benched today. Good to see Chelsea lost Silva, and they're sitting and seeing Bowley's patience. Feels good watching Chelsea losing every game now. Wow. I mean, look, as bad as, your team is, I mean, look, I can understand what you mean, wanting a change and, maybe a bad result will impact that, but I can never want my team to do badly. Even when Arteta had that run, 1 win in 10, I never wanted Arsenal to lose. Every defeat or draw just felt awful. Better to free hit in 29 or 28. My current preference, and it mainly is dependent on my own team and my own thinking, would be Game Week 28, but it might be different for you, in your situation. Captain Matoma in his double is a big risk. Well, even Ivan Toney would be a risk. I'm not a big fan of the captaincy in Game Week 27. I might go for a doubler, but as we saw this week of Haaland, maybe just going for the single Game Week option is your best bet, really, and just going for the reliable option. In Game Week 27, for example, Man United face Southampton at home. I might just go for Rashford as my captain. When will we know the confirmed fixtures for 28? I believe we'll know it in the next few days in the FA Cup. We've got games starting on the Tuesday, this Tuesday. So this week we should find out more about the blanks in Game Week 28. So that will be the answer there, NH. Unless I'm missing something, I already have lots of doublers for 29, including my bench. Yeah, I can see what you mean. But in terms of Game Week 28, I think a free hit makes sense for a lot of us, and we'll find out more in this week coming up in the FA Cup. I have just enough to do Mitrovic to Watkins tonight. If I wait, I'll be outpriced on Watkins. Should I make the transfer? 1 free transfer, says Harvey. Good question, because I normally advise caution and to not, to wait as long as possible. But I would do it. And what you could also do potentially, because I'm not sure if you were the one who asked if you had other moves as well to do, like a Stupinian in, you can maybe make one of those moves instead first and then bring Watkins in ahead of Game Week 27 and in time for his double in 29. So you could go about it that way. But is it worth taking the plunge right now? Yes, I think it is. Of course, it's risky. FA Cup games coming up now. There could be injuries and stuff like that. But if you're prepared to take the risk, you've got decent squad depth, I think you should do it. Bench boost in 29. I'm looking at something like that. So my current plan, and it's not definitive, I said this in my deadline stream, is to wildcard in 27, free hit in 28, and potentially bench boost in 29 or 34. So I think that is a decent chance. And Game Week 29 should be the biggest double of the season. We've got 12 teams, I think, doubling. So yeah, I think that's a good opportunity for you. What should I do with Mahrez? I'd probably sell. I think he's a really good option when he starts, but it's going to be a big concern now. Kepa to De Gea. I wouldn't go for De Gea. He's most likely going to blank in Game Week 28. You've got Kepa, who's got a double in 29. He's got some good fixtures as well. And once Badiashile comes in the side again and you've got Thiago Silva returning from injury, I think Chelsea will get more clean sheets despite their struggles. So I think Kepa's a better option still. Should wildcard in 26 to bench boost in 29 and plan for Game Week 29 and 27? Yeah, look, like I said, there's more people talking about the wildcard in 26. It's understandable. I'm considering it myself, but you always had Game Week 27 as well to wildcard too. Better to bench boost or free hit in 29? My current preference, and once again, it's influenced by my own team, is to bench boost in 29 and free hit in 28. But I might change my mind about that. What's trusted in Ketia Martinelli's situation? I don't think any of them are nailed. That's the point. The nailed on players for Arsenal are Odegaard and Saka, which is why I always recommend them. But from those three right now, I think Trossard will start. He's been really impressive. Yeah, against Everton, and there was maybe one other game. I'm not sure if it was Man City when he came on in the Premier League, where maybe he wasn't too good. But in every other game, he's been class, whether coming off the bench or starting the game. Against Leicester, top three players, he was integral. Very unlucky to have that goal disallowed. Played a part in the goal, setting up Martinelli. I think he will start. Between Martinelli and Nketiah, I think Martinelli will start in game week 25. Going forwards, though, it's anyone's game, and Nketiah could still come back in the side. Is it time to get Bowen? No, I still don't think so. I wouldn't go for West Ham assets just because of one result against Nottingham Forest. I know Forest have been good since the World Cup. I was surprised by the result, but it'll take a lot more than that for me to trust West Ham assets. I got no chips, so what's the best plan to navigate the blank game weeks? That will be tricky. It certainly will, of course, but I think you have to get in these players like Ollie Watkins, these Aston Villa players potentially, Mings at the back, something like that, to cover blanks like game week 28. So I think that is your best bet. Also going for a double or triple up in Arsenal too. I think that's very simple. And Newcastle, keeping Trippier. So those kind of things I think will play a really big part in you navigating these blank game weeks to come. So maybe I'm going to read out for you just now. So in terms of blank game week 28, just to remind you, the confirmed fixtures, so those that aren't going to blank, they're going to have a fixture, and you want to target these teams potentially. Arsenal versus Palace, both of them will have a fixture. Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle. So from those players, I know there's some teams there that aren't great, like Palace, but you'd be looking at 3 Arsenal if you can. Also 2 Villa, potentially. And I would say 1 or 2 Chelsea, but I'd go for the defenders. So Kepa in goal potentially, and a defender like Badiashile at the most. I wouldn't go for a triple up for sure at Chelsea. 1 Everton player is fine, like Tarkowski. And from Newcastle, 2 I think is maybe the best bet. So Botman and Trippier is your best bet now in terms of navigating blank game week 28 as an example. So if you got that, the moment Chelsea lost against Southampton, we already know nothing can be worse than that. Yeah, but I think losing to Spurs, a London derby, it is frustrating. I think that would have maybe annoyed me more as a Chelsea fan if I were to support them. So, yeah, obviously losing to Southampton at home, I mean, they have an interim manager as well, basically, and now he's been made permanent as a result, but that is just awful. And Chelsea, yeah, it's not looking good. Yeah, thank you, John. So in terms of the Discord server, no, the Discord server is free. I've got the link in the description below. I wanted to make a Discord server for channel members and patrons only, but there hasn't been enough demand for that, so I haven't made one just yet, or at least people haven't joined it, whatever it may be. But I will try to see if there are members interested or patrons. I can have a Discord was it a members only kind of Discord server. I can make that happen, but in terms of the one I have in the link in the description below, it's for everybody. So yeah, I'll talk to you more about it later as well if you want. Dylan, are you starting Trippier in game week 26 at City? I think I am at the moment, and I've got other fish to fry. Now look, what I could do as well if I wildcard in 26 is then potentially drop Trippier, but as things stand, I will start him. What's your impression on Arsenal versus Leicester game? It was a bit dull. I don't think it was a great game, but Arsenal were in control for most of the game, and I think we're a bit unlucky not to win by 2 or 3. And once again, I think it was a clear penalty, and I think the goal that was disallowed was soft, especially when you compare it to other instances this season. But it was a decent performance by Arsenal. What I'm more impressed by is the defensive unit, limiting Leicester to basically nothing throughout the whole game. Hi, will Nathan Patterson play on Wednesday? I don't think so, to be honest. I said this in the deadline stream. I'll say the same again. Thank you, Conrad. And of course, once we get more information with the FA Cup games this week, I'll also keep you updated. Welcome, Sonny. Yeah, it was a big win, but you've got Man City on the tail, and didn't expect them to drop points to Bournemouth. And Arsenal have to be real consistent now. They really missed a big opportunity not to at least draw to City and maintain a really big advantage over them. So now they have to win pretty much every single game until the end of the season. Everyone will consider West Ham assets by game week 29. We have most of our squad finally fit and firing, and we have a favourable double with both games at home. Yeah, look, it is possible. Just because you've been poor for most of the season, it doesn't mean you can't reverse the situation. It's happened to many teams in the past as well, but it's still always going to take me a bit more convincing, I think. And with all the doublers in 27 and in 29, I think those will be the priority. But you might be right. By the time we get to game week 27 or 28, we might finally realise we should have gone for a West Ham asset or 2. And if I were to go for any, it would be Bowen up front. And then in the defence, you'd probably pick someone out from there as well. But still, I'd have my concerns. Yeah, of course. Yeah, not a triple up, but maybe 1 or 2 would be a decent, of course. And you want to get in early and ahead of the curve. Which teams have the most doubles left except Brighton? Was it Bournemouth and Newcastle? That is a good question. I think so. Yeah, I think that is the case. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I might be wrong, but I think you did list the right teams there. I will do a wildcard draft if you wish. Throughout the week, I'll make a best wildcard team video because I want to give it some thought, and I might even wildcard myself in the end. So I won't do a wildcard team just yet. Yeah, Wei Sing, I think there isn't really a way to create polls in Discord servers. The only way is to put a message out, and then the way people react to messages is the way the poll works. So if you thumbs up, whatever, you think there's a good captaincy option, which is a bit frustrating. I took out Kane for Darwin and Martinelli for Saka from -8. To be honest, though, look, yeah, Kane to Darwin, I always said this. I would only do that move to fund other moves. So I'm guessing in that situation, you needed to do Kane to Darwin to fund Saka. And honestly, I think it was worth it. And Saka could still haul in the second game. Would you keep Tarkowski long term? I'd keep Tarkowski until Game Week 28, but beyond that, he's not someone I'd like to have. But he plays in Game Week 28. You wouldn't be too surprised if Everton kept a clean sheet against Chelsea there, even away from home. So, yeah, I think up until that period is when you'd want to keep him. And would you buy Kane instead of Tony, who doubles? Right now, if I were buying a striker, I'd still go for Tony simply because of the double. And I think it's a good double for Ivan Toney and Brentford. But long term, of course, if you want someone until the end of the season, Harry Kane is the one to have, of course. But for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 game weeks, I'd rather have Ivan Toney potentially. And to be fair, both of them, both Brentford and Spurs, are likely going to blank in Game Week 28 anyway. Got Matoma, Odegaard, Saka, Rashford and Mahrez. Want to sell. What options do I have? Got 3.4 million extra. Thinking of Bruno because Maddison is injured. Yeah, that is frustrating. I think Maddison has been, once again, showing good form and then he gets injured. Story of his Premier League career as well. You've got some great midfielders in there, and I wouldn't really change anything except for Mahrez. So what would I do there, really? That is a good one. Yeah, I think Bruno's a good transfer. The problem is, Game Week 28, he's likely going to blank. So you might want to get someone who covers Game Week 27 with a double or Game Week 29. So really, when I'm looking at that, I'm going to look at the Game Week 28 fixtures once again. There's not really a midfielder that stands out to me that you don't have already. That is a tricky one. I think once we find out who's going to have a fixture in Game Week 28, the extra ones, because the likes of Liverpool could actually have a game there, then maybe Salah could also be a good transfer for you. But yeah, I think Bruno's a good transfer, of course. But once again, Game Week 28 could be a concern for you. And maybe if you have the free hit, you can free hit there, just buy Bruno anyway and enjoy his points until the end of the season. The Henderson block is so rough for Salah captainers and Trent owners. Yeah, it is frustrating. Maybe I was a bit lucky in that regard because I didn't have Trent, but there you go. And also didn't captain Salah. Nonto is such a troll. Yeah, I saw that. That was funny. Getting a yellow when you're substituted, I mean, come on, at least give me a 2-pointer. That's basically what you're asking for. But look, Nonto's a good talent. I think he's got a lot of potential. But as an FPL option, I just don't like him. Even after his goal against Man United, I still don't think he's a great option. He's just really someone there to sit on your bench and fund or give you the funds for other moves. Brentford assets, except for Tony, Ben Mee and Raya. Those are the only ones I'd really consider. If you wanted a forward and can't stretch to Tony, it would be Mbeumo. But the way I'd rank it is potentially, I'd say Tony first, just about, then Ben Mee second, Raya third, and then Mbeumo fourth. And I think the top 3 is the ones you really want to go for. Early days, but what would a potential free hit 29 and free hit 28 team look like? Yeah, that is a good point. I'll go through this in the weeks to come and stuff. Right now, don't want to go too much into free hits and wildcards. We're going to be focusing on it in the upcoming videos. But yeah, that is a good point. I think that is something maybe to cover in a potential video. Talking about a potential free hit team in Game Week 28 compared to 29 and then reassessing it and stating which one is slightly better, especially in terms of our team structures. That is a good idea, but I'll leave that for another day, I think. Van Dijk, Tarkowski, Ake, bench one of them. Good question. I'd bench Van Dijk there, despite his big return there. And by the way, thank you for the really generous donation, Mackenzie. You didn't have to. Loved your content for a long time now. Keep at it. See you going places. Story of my season was that Henderson block when I have Salah captain. If you're watching the Jake Paul as a Tommy Fury fight, who do you got winning? I'm not watching it, to be honest. I'll be completely frank there. Not even too sure who to back there. I think I saw Drake betted on Jake Paul winning there. I'd wonder what your thoughts are, but I honestly have no idea. I don't really keep up with boxing, especially that type of boxing. But yeah, FPL has been a bit weird, especially recently, and this week is like none other. But I really appreciate the generous donation, and I appreciate the kind words, and I'll see you also in future streams and videos as well. But I appreciate that, and once again, let me know your thoughts on the fight too. Wasting says, Saka versus Rashford, who do you think is a better player right now? Look, Rashford in terms of form has been more informed than Saka, but I still think Saka is the better player overall. It's quite close, I'd say, but look, I think most people would say Rashford right now, and that's understandable, but I'd probably stick with Saka. Boyan Tarkowski for Ake, wasted a transfer and lost 5 points. Yeah, and look, to be fair, it was quite unlucky because Ake was subbed off just before City conceded. How many times has that happened this season? 0 times, that's the answer. So I think that's quite unlucky on your part. Is Tony essential for Double Game Week 27? I wouldn't say he's essential, but he is one of the best forwards and assets for that game week, but he's not essential for sure. I thought Salah and Saka were pretty much close to essential this week. So far hasn't gone right, and look, doubles are great, but they don't always pay off. So yeah, I see what you mean. And also the yellow cards, if he gets a yellow in 26, he's literally on a knife's edge for game week 27 and could be suspended for the second game. Why me over Pinnock or Henry? I just think Ben Mee's been more consistent all season, better for bonus points, and in terms of the attacking threat, I always favour him a little bit more to score goals. I think, yeah, Pinnock and Henry might be better for assists, especially in the case of Henry, but I always have a feeling that Ben Mee is the one that could score the goals there for Brentford from the back, so that's just the way I go about it. I think Henry and Pinnock are decent options, and similar to Tarkowski this week, you know, I think Cody Mikalenko are decent options as well, but I'd just rather go for the player or the centre-back that I think has the best threat from set pieces, and for me, it was Tarkowski for Everton and also Ben Mee for Brentford. I have a feeling free hit will be more valuable in 37 rather than 29. That is true, and there also could be more rotation. Some things could be wrapped up by then, the top 4 race, the title potentially, relegation. So that is a really good point as well, and that's why you don't need to just follow the crowd or the herd and just free hit in certain weeks when everyone else does. So I think that's pretty good as well, actually. Only see a desire to triple up on Brighton in 29. Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. And once again, there's not a clear strategy. There are so many big double game weeks to come, 29, 34, and 37. A free hit in any one of those game weeks could be good. Thank you, Mackenzie. Personally, I think Fury will win, but I can see Jake stunning him. I'm not really sure. Tommy seems confident, so I back it. Fair enough, and let's wait and see what happens there. Don't do betting or anything like that, but yeah, good luck, Mackenzie, and enjoy the fight. I'm not even sure when it is, actually. I think it's today, but I don't even know what time it is. How about KDB versus Odegaard versus Bruno this season? Well, look, if you look at numbers, De Bruyne has been the best of the three, but I think Odegaard has been the most influential for his team this season from the three. I think he's dropped off a little bit recently, but he had that period, especially between November and December, where he was unplayable, and he was the big difference in the games for Arsenal. But look, it's close. I think De Bruyne is by far the best overall from those three, but this season I would give the edge to Odegaard in the Premier League. Sell Edison or Kepa for Raya? I'd rather sell Edison. He's more expensive. Kepa has a double in 29. City don't have one. And I don't think Edison or City defenders are worth it right now, so he would be the one to sell. Yeah, I think so. I like Mahrez, but he's not getting the minutes. And with the Champions League, if City progress to the next round, I definitely would look to sell Mahrez, that's for sure. Mahrez to who? Mitoma? Yeah. Because when I look at the Game Week 27 doublers, I don't really like the Brentford midfielders. So it's really Mitoma, March, McAllister potentially, and Mitoma has the edge there. Welcome, Chelsea Blues. I had Badiashile and he blanked alongside Perisic. Yeah, I'm not even too sure why he didn't start the game. And there you go. I mean, rotation has been a bit of a killer this week and also throughout the season, but Badiashile really baffled me. Mitoma, March, or McAllister, Mitoma, definitely there. And Raya or Sanchez, it would be Raya. So Brentford, I favour more defensively over Brighton, but in terms of midfielders, I definitely would rather go for Mitoma than anything Brentford have to offer. And from those three midfielders you mentioned, Mitoma's the clear standout. So yeah, hopefully you got that, Tasnia. If I may ask, what do you think of the last World Cup and who's your favourite player of all time? Well, I enjoyed the World Cup. Obviously, I support Argentina. My family are from there, so it was a great, to witness that. My favourite player of all time is probably Messi, which is the boring answer. But apart from him, to give something a bit different, I love Thierry Henry as an Arsenal fan. He's up there. I also like some other players, growing up, David V and stuff like that. But my favourite player is probably Messi. Welcome, Mandip. Hi, Dylan. I still have all my chips and I'm on 1,543 currently. Good stuff. Roughly, how many points is each chip worth? That is a good question. So with a bench boost, I always say this. I think 15 points would be a good return on a bench boost. Anything more is a bonus. If you get 20 plus, I think that's a successful bench boost for sure. Triple captaincy, I think quite similar actually. If you can get 12, 15 points base score of your triple captain, I think that's really good. And anything more, once again, is a bonus. The free hit and the wild card are the most powerful chips. So a free hit, I think if you can gain at least 25, 30 points, I think that's a really good use of the free hit. And with the wild card, it's quite difficult to measure, because it's not just about the week you wildcard in, it's the long-term effect of your wildcard, and that's difficult to see how many points you've gained from that. But yeah, the wildcard is a long-term process, and how many weeks you can basically cover with that chip. And also, I'm not even too sure how to quantify that basically, but the wildcard's the most powerful. Free hit, I'd say 25 plus points is a good score or good gain from it. And then the other two chips, I think 15 plus would be really good. What do you think about Ake to Stupinian this week, or should I roll the transfer? I'd probably roll the transfer and then bring in a Stupinian. I'm not necessarily expecting a clean sheet for Brighton in Game Week 26. You want them in time for Game Week 27 though, so yeah, I'd roll the transfer. Xhaka, Jorginho, Partey start too if you're Arteta. I mean, this is difficult because Xhaka plays a different role to Jorginho and Partey, but based on form, it would be Xhaka dropped and Jorginho and Partey starting, but I don't see that happening. I think Xhaka will start, and then it'll be one of Jorginho or Partey starting as the pivot, and Odegaard on the right-hand side. And actually, I would like Fabio Vieira to start in place of Xhaka, but if that's the case, then you probably need Partey in the midfield, because if you've got Fabio Vieira and Jorginho, you could be overrun there and really targeted on that hand side, on the left-hand side defensively. So yeah, it's difficult, but on current form, I would drop Xhaka. Whose career would you rather have, Kane's or Vardy's? That is a really good question. I mean, probably Vardy's. I mean, look, Kane's been great in terms of personal accolades. He's been superior in that regard. But Vardy, also the kind of fairy tale story, starting his career from a young age, an old age, you'd say. And also the fact that he won the Premier League with Leicester, I think nothing can really top that. So, yeah, I'd rather have Vardy's career, I'd say. Trent against United or Trippier against City? Trippier. Thoughts on having both March and Matoma? I think for Game Week 27, that looks good. I wouldn't want that long term, though, but for Game Week 27 looks decent. Do you think Potter's job is under threat? I said this even in my last video, I think, my team selection video. Even then, I said it's in trouble. I think everyone can see that. You know, even a few weeks ago, it was in trouble. 2 wins from 14, 15, whatever it is, it's just not good enough. And yeah, I think if Chelsea are out of the Champions League and they don't have an upturn in form soon in the Premier League, I think he's gone. It's as simple as that. The rumours coming out recently from Ben Jacobs and a few other sources point towards Chelsea sticking with Potter for now. Let's wait and see if that holds any weight. Got 35 with only 6 players. Yeah, I can see what you mean, Islam. It is painful. Still 3 Arsenal, 2 Liverpool and Tarkowski left for double game week. Lucky week for me. Didn't even use free transfers and got no chips left. Well, that's the positives there. And you're in a good position for the weeks to come. Obviously, the chips might cause you to struggle a little bit. But in terms of the transfers you have, not taking hits this week, I definitely count that as a positive there. Do you think a midfielder from every club in the Premier League could replace Fabinho, Bajcetic or Henderson, the midfielder against Madrid, and improve them? I'm not sure about every, but most. So Bournemouth, not really. I think Lerma's probably one of their better midfielders, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he really improves Liverpool. Nottingham Forest, I think maybe Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he could potentially improve them. And a lot of players, you know, Neves from Wolves. The thing is, though, I think it's difficult to quantify as well, to say the exact reason. Obviously, the midfield for me is the big one, but maybe it's not just about personnel, it's also about the structure as well. It's difficult, but definitely Fabinho's been off form for the last 2 years. It's just this year it's really highlighted because Liverpool have struggled. But even last year when they reached, you know, they were so close to a quadruple, Fabinho's level definitely dropped. I think Bajcetic has some potential. He's a decent young player. But if Liverpool are at their peak, he would not be starting. And as for Henderson, you know, he's slowly getting on a bit. He had a decent World Cup, but still, you can clearly see having a midfielder that free, the balance isn't there as well. I think that's the key. Not just the players, they're aging and off form, whatever it may be. It's also the balance between those three. Start March Matoma. Still Matoma for me. Would like to ask your thoughts on Romero as he's Argentine and plays for Spurs. Look, when he plays for Argentina, obviously I back him and stuff, but he is a very dislikable player. I'll be honest. You know, if he plays for your team, you like him. If he plays for the other team, you absolutely hate him. And the fact he plays for my rival club, so to speak, you know, obviously that makes me maybe dislike him a little bit more. Look, he's very aggressive. I think he's got a lot of potential, but made the wrong call going to Spurs, to be honest. I think he should have stayed in Italy and then also possibly gone to a Barcelona or Real Madrid at some point. And I think he could have. It's a bit similar to Enzo, which I said heading into this period. I think it was not the right time to join Chelsea. The same goes for Romero joining Spurs as well. Who do I captain for Game Week 26? It's a difficult one, but I am currently favouring the Arsenal assets and potentially one of Haaland or Rashford. So Saka, Rashford or Haaland, and my current preference is with Saka, but I have a feeling I might switch that, especially after the second game of Game Week 25. I've got a sneaky feeling I could end up switching to Rashford, actually. Would love to see Hansi Flick's Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, that would be good, but would he leave Germany to go Chelsea? I just don't really see it, mate. I'll be honest, I don't see it. I saw a Chelsea fan I know, actually, mentioned it to me. He wants to see Hansi Flick, but I said, is he really going to leave Germany? I'm not so sure. I don't see it. Thank you, Mackenzie. Once again, you didn't have to, mate, but really I appreciate it. I activated my wildcard just to hop on price rises, but mainly because I weighed up my team for 26 and my wildcard team for 27, and I prefer the wildcard team, so I might as well activate it. Yeah, look, to be honest, a lot of people in this chat today have mentioned it. They've been talking about wildcarding in Game Week 26, and it makes sense for some people. I'm going to reconsider it. I don't want to settle on it just yet, and I want to wait for the second game of Game Week 25, but it is definitely a consideration. And as you say, if you think your team's going to benefit as soon as Game Week 26 and it makes sense for your team, I would go for it for sure. But I'd also maybe not activate it just yet and maybe wait for the second games of 25. You might change your mind. And also the games in the FA Cup coming up in the next week could also influence your thinking. And as a result, you might end up not going that way, and you might decide to hold out for at least another week, or maybe even wildcard in Game Week 28, 29 or 33, something like that. So yeah, I would probably urge caution, not activate it just yet, but after the games in 25, if you're still looking really keen on wildcarding in 26, I'd go ahead with it. Darwin will play against Wolves? I think so. Suggest cheap defenders for the long run. That is a difficult one, but I think Botman, it ticks a lot of boxes as well, doesn't blank in 28. I think Botman is still a great choice, and Newcastle will benefit once Nick Pope is back, and of course Bruno Guimaraes is now returned from suspension too. So Botman would be up there, Estupinian and Ben Mee, although that you could class them as medium priced, not necessarily cheap, but they're still accessible for a lot of us, and I would recommend those three. You play F1 Fantasy? I did play it last year, had a decent rank. I can't remember exactly what the rank was, but I think close to around 1,000. And if you do, who's your favourite driver? Well, I think Alonso's price looks really enticing. So, and depending or based on preseason testing so far, I think Alonso would be a steal, kind of set and forget. He's going to be owned by basically everyone in the game. My favourite driver overall, probably Alonso as well in F1. Who would be better replacement for Kepa, Raya or Pope? Raya. Yeah, Raya would be the one. You think Otamendi will remain first choice for Argentina? Not for much longer, but I think he will for the time being. Until, I'd say for the next year or two, he'll be first choice. After that, Lissandro will probably displace him. But I have to say, right now, Otamendi, I wouldn't drop him. I know he made some mistakes in the final, which brought France back in the game. And also the Emi Martinez save from Colomwani, that came from Otamendi as well. Throughout the whole tournament, though, he was almost flawless, but that final, he almost messed things up in Otamendi fashion. Should I start Gakpo or Mings? Good question. I probably would go for Mings, actually. Welcome, Alex. Great to see you as well, Alex. Thank you very much. Currently on 52 with 6 left to go on a double game week. Doesn't look like the best week for yourself. Definitely not. Of course, I've got a triple up in Arsenal and Liverpool and Tarkowski, so I would expect an improvement from my current position, but definitely a bad week for me. One of the worst since the World Cup for me as well. That's 3 red arrows in a row too. And I think a wild card very soon could generally improve my team, and also I can start to get in Ollie Watkins back into my side, maybe Harry Kane as well, but it will be an issue. I think there are definitely some issues coming up for me, and also displacing Shaw for Tarkowski for a hit. I think that was definitely a mistake. Dylan, when is the best time to wildcard? I can't generalize and speak for everyone, but I think Game Week 26/27 is looking like a really good chance for a lot of us. The other weeks to really highlight would be Game Week 29 and also 33. But right now, for me, I'd say 26/27. I'd say Osimhen, but Rashford is up there. There's no doubt about it. He's in the top 3 most informed players. But when I'm seeing, best player in the world charts, I think that's already a step too far. Yes, he's in great form, but best player in the world would be a differentiation to make. But yeah, he's up there. If people say he's the most informed, I wouldn't really object. But I'd say Osimhen or Kvaratskhelia. Bruno Guimaraes was injured today, I think. Yeah, and look, if he does miss the next few games, that would be a concern. But not expecting a clean sheet against Man City anyway. It's the Game Week 27 fixture against Wolves where I would back Newcastle for a clean sheet. I want to roll the transfer, but Kepa isn't performing well. Should I get Raya in or roll the transfer? I'd still roll. Chelsea are playing Leeds after at home, and I know they lost to Southampton recently, but if Badiashile and Thiago Silva start, I would back a Chelsea clean sheet there. Maris to Matoma, March, or Grima to Tony? Which one would you prioritise? That's a really good question. I know I said Maris would start at least one of the games coming up in 24-25. It hasn't happened, but I would prioritise Grima to Tony, I think. Raya or Sanchez for Gameweek 27 and 29? Tough one, but I'd go for Raya. Hi Dylan, can you kindly share your view? I still have Mitrovic. Selling him will only give me 7.1 million. Is it worth taking a hit to get to Tony? It will pay off the hit, in my opinion. Mitrovic is always an injury doubt right now, and he hasn't been in great form. But is it worth taking a hit? I still would think so. The big issue here, though, Seb, is you take a hit, Tony gets a yellow in 26, and then another one in the first game of 27 and misses the second game. It's definitely possible. And in that respect, is a big risk. So what I would do in your situation, despite me saying all week and also all month that Mitrovic is a sell, I'd probably hold off on that. If you've got someone to come on, even Trent in Game Week 26, I would play them and then make the move in Game Week 27 once you know Tony is suspension risk free. So that's what I'd probably do in your situation. Tagliafico versus Acuna, different qualities. I think in the last year or two, Acuna's been the better player for Argentina, but they're different. You know, Acuna's more offensive-minded, Tagliafico's better defensively and on one-on-ones. In the final, Tagliafico was way better. I think Acuna, that substitution for Di Maria was almost costly as well, although he played as a left mid in that situation. I think they're quite similar in level, and it's just different qualities they possess as well. But yeah, if I had to pick one, that's tough, actually. That's really tough. Maybe Acuna. Not so sure, though. Welcome, A and B. Are you good at football and have you played in an academy or something? Once upon a time, I'd say I was fairly decent, but no, I never played in academies or anything like that. But I think when I was younger, I was better. But then I kind of just, I'm not sure I lost interest, but didn't really pursue it, basically. Do you think Nunez starts against Wolves? Sorry if this question was asked. Yeah, no, it's been asked a few times, but no worries. I think he'll start, yeah. I have nothing to really go off. You know, I can't say, oh, we have this information or anything like that. Even Klopp's comments I'd take with a pinch of salt. But I think he will start. Thank you, A and B. I appreciate that as well. And as he says, let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes. Mitro out, Watkins in? Yes. But as I said to someone else earlier, I think it was Seb Gold, maybe hold out for another week on that move. But if you can do it this week and it doesn't influence your plans going forwards, then definitely, why not? Is there a priority to bring in Kane now for a hit? I currently have Haaland, Felix, and Nketiah. It would be a priority if Nketiah is benched once again against Everton, which is likely. If that's the case, then I think it would be a priority because apart from Haaland, you've got Felix in a misfiring Chelsea side. You've got Nketiah, who's not even guaranteed to start. So yeah, I think if Nketiah doesn't start against Everton, I would prioritise it and possibly take a hit. But then again, you could also just go to Tony and maybe for free as a result with a double in 27 or Watkins in 29. So it doesn't have to be Harry Kane necessarily. Welcome, Abraham. I'm thinking of wildcarding, but would you keep Martinelli? On a wildcard, no. Of course, in the last two games, he's shown a bit of form per se, but they were not great performances overall, especially against Leicester in the first half. And I would rather have Saka. So would I keep Martinelli? I don't think so. But if you have a good feeling about him, then don't let me discourage you. It's just, in my opinion, there's still better options despite his returns in the last two games. Yes, unless you have, some really good defenders or players in his stead. But would I start Trippier over Trent? Yes, I would. And probably over most players in the game still. Good to see you as well, Astravidan. Welcome. We found out the prices for F1 Fantasy. I've only seen it from the official F1 website. They posted some. I think they put Alonso around 8.9 million, something like that. Verstappen 26.9. That might be wrong, by the way. It might be 28.9. I have to double check it, basically. But if you check F1's official page, they have posted some prices already. And I think tomorrow the game is released. Welcome, Mackenzie, once again. Currently on 42, -8. Still got Dawson, Martinelli, Saka, Salah, and Nketiah. I would expect 60-plus points in your situation, especially if you captain one of Saka or Salah. But yeah, it is a bit frustrating this week, for sure. But at least you're doing better than me, I will say that. Start Edison or Kepa? I'd go for Kepa, actually. Yeah, really good question, Sonny. One that is probably... I'm probably going to have to give a list of films. I'm a big fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Shawshank Redemption. The Matrix. I mean, there's so many good films, honestly. But The Godfather, Goodfellas. I mean, yeah, this is what I mean. I'm going to list like 10 films, so let me just stop myself there. Is Nketiah sell? I would hold for now, but if he's benched against Everton, I think that's about it, and I would sell him, yeah. And once again, those 4 forwards, Harry Kane, Tony, Watkins, and of course, Haaland's the 4th one. I think all of them are good transfers. Yeah, I know, yeah, Thiago Silva did go off today, and that is the concern. But if he is back in time for Game Week 26, I think Chelsea keep a clean sheet, especially if Badiashile starts as well. Welcome, Ahmed. Dylan, is a -4 hit worth it this week for Matoma and Watkins? Depends who you bring out, to be honest. But are those transfers good? Yes. Not just for Game Week 26, but also long term. But will I take a -4 hit? I'm not so sure. And once again, it depends on the players you bring out. Robbo to Mings, Nonto to Tony for a hit? No. I don't think I would do that this week. Sorry. I know Mings has a good fixture, could keep a clean sheet, but I'm not too sure. I mean, the hit makes sense, I'll be honest. It does make sense, but you could just wait out for Game Week 27 and do it for free. I think a lot of hits recently haven't paid off for a lot of us, so maybe that is playing a part in my argument there, and I could be wrong, but I would be a bit skeptical about that. Let me just show you a few screens quickly before we go back to my points, my amazing points this week. Arsenal are not at the top of the fixture ticker finally. We've got Brighton and Brentford, the new boys on top of the block there. Top 2, you've got Chelsea, Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest also making up the top 5, and also Southampton and Man United right up there. And now look at that, Arsenal from top of the fixture ticker, now suddenly in the bottom 4, which is quite interesting to see. Liverpool, despite their double as well in 29, they are in the bottom 5 as well over the next 6 game weeks according to Fantasy Football Hub. Now, one thing I don't agree with in the algorithm is the predicted points. We've got Joao Felix in 5th position. The way Chelsea are playing, there's no way I would back Joao Felix to be in the top 5 scorers. Of course, Leeds is a good fixture, and things can definitely turn around. All it takes is 1 game, but I just don't see it offensively. I think a clean sheet is possible, maybe a narrow win for Chelsea, but I would not be backing Joao Felix. Of course, if you have him, do you sell? I'd possibly keep for another week, being Game Week 27. I think Tony, if he's not a suspension risk, and also someone else like Ollie Watkins are easy transfers in. But as you can see, Odegaard is top. You've got Harry Kane, Saka and Nketiah also making up the top 4 here. And I'm actually currently going for a Arsenal player for the captaincy in Bukayo Saka for Game Week 26. And also I did captain Saka this week too. Not paid off so far, but that is the top 5, and I'll show you the top 10 as well in the deadline stream in a few days' time, on Saturday actually, so almost a week from now. In terms of price predictions, this is a really good website, fplstatistics.co.uk. Watkins is projected to rise, whether today, I'm not so sure. It might be a bit later on in the week. Remember, there are FA Cup games coming up and there could be injuries. So if you can help it, don't make early transfers unless you're going to be priced out of someone you really want. That's the only situation where I would possibly consider it. Otherwise, don't make early transfers. De Bruyne is also close to a price drop. Also, the likes of Mitrovic and Perisic and a few other, I'd say, irrelevant options as well at this stage. And the last thing I want to show you before going back to my team is the top 10k captaincy. And Saka was top, although narrowly, and we've got Salah there in 2nd place, Odegaard 3rd, Haaland 4th, and Darwin 5th. Those that captain Darwin, I do feel for you, of course. I never really wanted to captain him, to be fair, but I did bring him in myself for a -8, so I can't even take the piss if I wanted to be quite frank. But there you go, Saka just about edged it in terms of top 10k captaincy over Salah. Quite interesting stuff there, actually, but it does make sense given his ownership is overall higher by a substantial amount compared to Salah. So let's go back to my team and go back to your questions as well. Who to captain, Salah, Matoma or Iheanacho? In Game Week 26, probably Matoma. I wouldn't captain Salah against Man United. And Iheanacho, he has been good, and he's also another one that I'd include in the top 5 or 6 forwards at the moment, but I wouldn't captain him. Still games to play, but who do you regret being seduced by most for Game Week 25 hits? Well, I'll be honest, even Darwin, you know, I've said this before, he was a bad transfer in general, but the only reason I did it was to fund Robertson and Salah, and I don't regret it from that perspective. Tarkowski, I'd say, is probably just the worst transfer in general because I lost Luke Shaw, who I'd really like for Game Week 27. It's close because every week it seems to be a different kind of name in the hat, but Spurs have been showing some decent results, some good form, solid defending, and Harry Kane is the big player that's always delivering all season. So look, Newcastle a few months ago, I would have said are kind of a lock-in for fourth, but they just haven't been able to get enough wins. There too many draws, not enough wins. Right now, I'd say Spurs, I think, will get fourth. Man United, I think, will get third, potentially even higher, but I think that's the way it'd go. And then between Arsenal and City for the title, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for too as well. What age do you think Messi retires from the national team? Not something I really want to think about, but I think 2024, 2025. So I think you'll enjoy a year or two being world champion, and then after that, I think you'll call it a day. Will you be doing deadline stream for UCL Fantasy second leg? I'll be doing a UCL Fantasy stream whenever possible. So for the second leg, match day 8, I will be doing a deadline stream. But for match days 9 and 10, I don't think I'll be able to. I'll try my very best, but I'll be on holiday, and it will be very difficult for me to do those streams as well as the FPL ones around that period, so late March and early April. It won't be too many streams that I miss or videos, but it is possible that I miss quite a few game weeks, basically. Thank you, Seb Gold. I appreciate that. Why is Pep rotating everybody? Same game week before, same 11, no subs. It's so annoying. Why walk in for 10 minutes and lose? Yeah, I mean, with Pep, you just don't know. A lot of City fans are questioning his decisions this season. Welcome, Yusuf. I can see you as a real-time football scout recommending hidden gems. I mean, I don't know about that. That wouldn't be too bad, you know. It's a decent job as well. But I'm not too sure. I'm not even... Which players I've even recommended that has, you know, been a complete hidden gem? I'm not sure. If you can point that out, then I'd appreciate that, Yusuf. But thank you very much. Do picks from Man City make sense apart from Haaland? They do make sense, but right now, I mean, look at the defenders all season. Not enough points. Ederson is just not worth the money. Mahrez was worth it, but now he's not getting the minutes. So honestly, I'd say no. Haaland's the only one I'd go for at this moment in time. No doubles as well. The fixtures aren't that great. So yeah, at the moment, I'd go for none. Mackenzie puts his wildcard team, which looks really good already. Raya, Ward, Soufal, Henry, Estupinian, Trippier, Botman, Mitoma, Odegaard, Saka, Maddison, Rashford, Haaland, Kane, Tony, or Nketiah, then move to Tony no matter for double and free hit 28. Looks really good. I think, so I would go for Tony over Nketiah. Even if Nketiah starts against Everton, or we get an inclination of he's going to start in Game Week 26, I would just go for Tony. And you could also then move to Watkins in Game Week 29. So the forward line looks amazing, no problems with it. Midfield as well, if Maddison's back, that is going to be one thing you need to keep an eye on. Then I do like him a lot. And that midfield 4 or 5, should I say, looks fantastic. No problems with it whatsoever. Double Newcastle defence. I like it a lot despite their recent results. Estupinian, no problems with it. I do prefer Ben Mee over Henry, but if you can't afford it, then I think Henry's a nice substitute. Probably my second favourite Brentford defender. Soufal, I'm not too sure about. And obviously, didn't he come off quite early as well, which was frustrating for some people as well. So I'd reconsider Soufal, and I'd definitely go for Tony. But the rest, I think, is quite locked in. Just keep an eye out on Maddison and his situation as well. And then free hitting in 28 makes complete sense with your team structure. And once again, once we get the FA Cup games this week, we'll find out a lot more about the extra fixtures we'll get, the confirmed fixtures for Game Week 28. And then that could also play a part in your chip strategy. You might actually use the free hit in another game week as a result. Start Kepa or Raya Game Week 26. I'd still go for Kepa, oddly enough, but it is a close one. That's a really close one. What are your thoughts of getting Mahrez out for Game Week 26? The thing is, I think he's going to start in Game Week 26, and that's why for some people it might be worth holding on to him for one more week. But ultimately, he's a sell, whether it's now or in 27. But I'd probably keep him for one more week, potentially. Who are you going to go for captaincy? My current captain is Saka, but I'm actually feeling potentially Rashford, especially if Liverpool look really vulnerable against Wolves in midweek as well. If that's the case, then I think I might even switch to Rashford. But right now it's on Saka. Haaland's always in the thoughts, of course, and at home to Newcastle, who have been a bit off form recently. I think it's a pretty decent chance of return, of course. Told you Spurs never lost when Conte not around. That's why I highly rated came. Yeah, with the interim manager, I can't remember his name, they've won all 4 games. That is a good point. But I'm sure Conte had a big part to play with Zoom meetings and constant telephone calls, conferring with the rest of his staff. So, yeah, he still played a part, of course, but the interim manager's doing a fine job. What to do with Mahrez now? I would sell, but I'd possibly hold on to him for one more week because I think he will start in 26. But then again, I thought he would in 24 or 25. Hi Dylan, do we get Shaw back into the team or Stupinian? I'd go for Stupinian. Shaw's likely to blank in 28, and whilst Brighton are as well, at least they have the double in 27 to compensate. And I think Estupinian outscores Shaw in the next 2 game weeks, so I'd rather go for the Ecuadorian. Yusuf says, I think Tony has 9 yellow cards. I think he's got 8. I can double check that for you right now, just to make sure, but I think it's 8. Yeah, it's 8. So 2 more yellows and he's suspended. And that's what I mean. With people looking to bring Tony in right now, I wouldn't. I'd probably hold on for another week. If he's not yellow carded against in Game Week 26, then that's all looking good. And then you can bring him in for Game Week 27, because there's going to be a real big chance that he misses the second game of Game Week 27 if he gets this booking in the next game. So yeah, 2 yellow cards away from suspension there. I already used the free hit and triple captain, which leaves me with bench boost and wildcard. What would you do in my situation? I'm not sure about your team, Same, but potentially I'd wildcard in either 26 or 27 and bench boost in 29. The only downside to that is that you have no chips left for the next 8-9 game weeks to conclude the season. But I think game week 26/27 wildcard and 29 bench boost would look really good in your situation. Best defenders to bring in? I still like Trippier, Botman, Estupinian, Ben Mee, and I also would consider Davis. He's been the best Spurs defender this season. I know he got booked today. And apart from that, maybe I'd consider West Ham defender. But yeah, I think the first few I mentioned would be the best, the ones I'd really target. So Trippier, Botman, Estupinian, and Ben Mee. I will obviously reconsider, and once we get to midweek, potentially, I'll be making more videos, more research, and then making a best wildcard team potentially, if that's what you wish. Yeah, Sufar's the one I'm looking at changing, but he has good doubles for Game Week 29, where I bench boost and doesn't have awful fixtures, and yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Maddison injury. Yeah, Barnes also, he'd be the next best in terms of Leicester midfielders. Overall, from Leicester attackers, Iheanacho would be the kind of next in line for Maddison, but that looks pretty decent overall. And look, even if that punt doesn't pay off, the rest of your midfielders and attackers looks really solid. My only concern, actually, is that you have 8 really good attackers and you'd have to bench one of them every single week, and it can go wrong. But then again, you'd rather have that squad depth than not have it at all, because it can come in clutch sometimes. Thank you, AMB. For that, I can send you a Bisht what Messi put on before lifting the World Cup, especially because I'm from the Middle East. Yeah, I was aware of that. It made for some good photos as well, and it is quite unique. Of course, I saw some controversy about the whole situation, but and by the way, I probably mispronounced that word. Yeah, Tony's on 8 yellow cards. Terrible game for us, says Lewis. If you mean game week, then yeah, definitely. In terms of game for us, are you a Liverpool fan? I can't see from here because I'm quite blind anyway. But yeah, let me know, Lewis. If you were to sell Martinelli, then who would you do it for? At this stage, it's tricky, but I'd still go to Saka. And probably, look, you probably have Saka already. I think Matoma is a really good transfer. From the doublers in 27, I don't like the Brentford assets, the midfielders. So I would say Matoma. I used 10 MB to watch Chelsea's goals this season, and now I still have 9.5 MB left. Wow, Jesus, we're saying you don't need to go into your team too hard. Things will get better. It just might take some time and more money. I bought in Estupinian, Mee, and Matoma. They're the best options for Game Week 27, alongside Tony, I'd say, and Raya. That would be the best 5. And in terms of order, you've got 3 of the best ones anyway, actually. Yeah, best wildcard team would be a great video this week. I think it'll be very popular in general. Even I might be swayed to it because I don't like the triple up in Liverpool long term. I've always said it. Yeah, I still took the plunge, massive hits to get them in Game Week 25. So yeah, I will be making it very soon. I'll do the research after this stream is done. I'll be then formulating the team and then preparing it. And in the next few days, I'll try to get it out. So thank you for that. Welcome, Ori. Rough week. Also Liverpool fans, so not really happy. Hope the remaining games will prove something else. Are you thinking about Wildcard 26? Yes, I definitely am. And I'm also in a similar situation to you regarding this week. Good for planning. And do you still have your free hit? I do have my free hit, which I'm happy with. And that's why it gives me some options. I can wildcard now, free in 28. And I could also use the free in 29 or later in the season. So I do like that flexibility. But yeah, I'm considering the wildcard in 26. And once I make that team and that video for the best wildcard team, I might be swayed and completely convinced to activate it myself. I'd go for Matoma. March is good, and I think he has maybe a higher ceiling, more double-digit returns in the last 7-8 game weeks. But Matoma for me is the clear standout for me. Yeah. Do you think it will be okay to bring in 3 Brentford Brighton players for a -16 hit? No. I took a -8 hit for 3 Liverpool players and an Everton player this week. And look, it could still pay off, but it's not worth a -16 hit in my opinion. Even if you're bringing in Mitoma, Tony, and Estupinian, or Ben Mee, who I'd regard as the 3 or 4 best players in Gameweek 27, I don't think it's worth a -16 hit. I'd actually rather just wildcard in your situation, or do it gradually, these transfers, and you don't need to do it just yet. Yeah, fair enough, Lewis. I mean, look, last year you were so close to a quadruple. I'm quite surprised by what's happened this time round. Klopp seems to struggle in his 7th season, but you never know. Things can still take a turn. But yeah, I was actually backing Liverpool to go far in the Champions League, but once I saw that Madrid draw, yeah, it didn't look great. What to do with Mahrez, Dylan? So if I had him, and in my situation with 1 free transfer, I would roll it. I would keep him. I think he'll start, but then sell him in 27 for Mitoma. That's what I would do. But if you've got 2 free transfers, you don't know what to do with your team in general, then I would sell him and just do that move right now. Thoughts on FM live stream? I don't really play Football Manager, so I can't really tell you that. I have to learn a lot before even considering doing videos or streams about that. One day, you never know, but right now I don't see it happening. What week would you bring in Watkins? That's a good question. I mean, even now is a good time facing Crystal Palace at home and some good fixtures afterwards, but I think for me, it'd be Gameweek 27. If I wildcards, then I think Watkins comes in. But I'd also be open to going for Harry Kane, Tony, and Haaland, and then bringing Watkins in ahead of Gameweek 29. That's the main one you want him for. But honestly, Watkins covers so many boxes. And if you're not looking to free in 28 or you don't have it and you need these players, Watkins is a buy even right now. And he's a really good choice. What if you took a hit to bring in James because of good fixtures? What would you do? Well, that's the thing. Look, I don't think he's the worst option in the world, and I still like Chelsea defensively. Kepa Arrizabalaga, Badiashile, I think they'll offer good value, but a lot depends on Thiago Silva. Does he come back in the side? Does he recover from his injury? Does Badiashile come back in the starting 11? If those things happen, then I'd be more confident, but at the same time, I don't think Reece James is worth that money, and he's also such a headache all the time. He's such an injury-prone player, and as a result, I'd rather just go for a safe and cheaper option from the Chelsea ranks who have been off form. Leno plus Gaeta or Sanchez and Ward on wildcard 26, long-term or attack doubles? Good question. I'd rather go for Sanchez and Ward. I know Leno and Gaeta, you're covering maybe some more game weeks in that way, but Sanchez and Ward looks superior in my opinion, and I'd actually rather go for Raya instead of Sanchez, but Sanchez is pretty decent as well. James lost his attacking threat after playing 4-2-3-1. Yeah, obviously the back three, having the wing backs in that Thomas Tuchel system really suited James from an offensive point of view. That is a good point. Today he was too defensive, and a lot of Chelsea fans wanted him to be further forward. I'm looking at wildcard 30, free hit 32, and bench boost 34. It's good to see different strategies, not just everyone doing the same thing. Everyone was kind of considering a wildcard in 29 or 27, and now they're looking at 26. That's also another solid strategy, and it might make sense in your situation, G-Wiz. Or it says, same for me, but I still have the free hit, bench boost, and wildcard. This season seems my luck isn't working, so I'll probably rely on planning and will play wildcard 26 if nothing funny happens in the cup. Yeah, and that's another thing that you obviously make a good point of. The FA Cup. That could also play a part in if I end up deciding to wildcard or not. And I will probably try to leave the team selection video for later in the week so then I can cover my final thoughts there before the deadline stream, of course. And yeah, that's good that you have 3 chips left. I've still got the bench boost as well. I'm actually... With the bench boost, it's kind of a chip that I'd rather get out of the way really early on. Some people use it in Gameweek 1, and I'm actually quite envious of that. What is the best strategy for managers without chips? The best strategy is to target these players like in Gameweek 28 who have a confirmed fixture. So Aston Villa players like Watkins are going to be a godsend for you. Arsenal players like maybe Saka, a defender like Zinchenko, and maybe another midfielder like Odegaard. I think that just puts you in good stead there. Having maybe 1 or 2 Newcastle players, I'd go for 2, and I'd go for Botman and Trippier. So that is what you want to do. Look at the Gameweek 28 games, those that have confirmed fixtures, and try to have maybe 2 or 3 of some of these kind of key teams like Aston Villa, Arsenal, and Newcastle. Obviously, Aston Villa is kind of, I say key maybe a bit loosely, but Watkins is looking really promising right now. And maybe instead of going for Tony or Harry Kane, I think going for someone like Ollie Watkins would be a good strategy in your situation. Should I replace Nketiah at some point or keep? I would sell him probably going into Gameweek 27, but it's kind of a difficult one with Nketiah because if he gets the start, he always has a chance of returning. In terms of XG per 90, only Haaland is better this season, but there is a massive underperformance in terms of XG and the goals he scored. He's missed a lot of big chances. He's now on the bench, and I don't see any need for Arteta to change things and put Nketiah back in the starting 11. So I'd probably sell him. And my favourite striker to go to right now would be Watkins around a similar price, but you might want Tony with his double in 27 in mind. So if you were to bring a striker this week, I'd rather get in Watkins, but for Game Week 27, of course it'd be Tony, assuming he's not a suspension risk. So should I take another hit for Estupinian? I'm not sure which player you're getting out in that situation, but I wouldn't take a hit for Estupinian this week. I would do it in Game Week 27, if anything. I can't speak for everyone, but my current thinking for myself is to wildcard in either Game Week 26 or 27 and bench boost in 29 and potentially free hit in 28. I might do that. Then again, using all the chips in such quick succession, there are a few doubts in my mind as well. And I might even consider using one of those chips, like the free hit, a bit later on in Game Week 34. Currently favouring saving both my wildcard and free hit for game weeks later, blanks and doubles. I'm not looking forward to spending hours on brainstorming and planning out a strategy not to get during game week 28-29. I can see what you mean. And once again, the FA Cup this week will play a huge part in our thinking, and that will help us decide ultimately what we go for. So I wouldn't be too bogged down yet in terms of defining a clear strategy, to be honest. I would have a good idea about it. Maybe you have one or two game weeks in mind for a certain chip, but I wouldn't, map everything out, because the FA Cup could definitely change things a lot, especially in regards to blank game week 28 and the free hit. Yeah, I agree, G-Wiz, but of course, in my situation, I provided that kind of answer. It might be different for some people. I think maybe leaving it for later in the season, as some people are considering, like yourself, G-Wiz, that could also be viable. What do you think about Salah to Matoma and Nonto to Tony for game week 27? Look, I do like Salah still for the next 4 or 5 game weeks with the double and 29, but those transfers look really solid, and Nonto isn't a good option. So that's a massive upgrade to Tony, and getting Matoma in, of course, one of the best options in 27. That looks good. Liverpool players are too risky after watching their games. We all knew this, after the Madrid game, that made me more keen to buy Salah, but not necessarily the defenders. And yet, in this first game of Game Week 25, it was the defenders getting the returns, none for Salah. So things can still change, and we've got that second game against Wolves. I would expect something from either Salah, Darwin, or Robertson / Trent. But yeah, long-term Liverpool players, don't go for a triple up. Another hit to take James out. I wouldn't take a hit to get rid of James, let me put it that way. But would I want him long-term? Not necessarily. The only kind of plus is the fact that he doubles in 29, good fixtures before that. And if Thiago Silva and Badiashile are on the side, they have a good chance of some clean sheets, especially in Game Week 26. We'd love to see your structure on managing a club, so FM will be the ideal game. Yeah, I'll check it out. I think Goldhead is another one who recommended FM as well. There was a big sale at one point, so I will check it out eventually. Thank you, G-Wiz. And of course, in future streams and videos, we can talk about this more. The same goes for Mackenzie and everyone else in the chat too. Right now, I'm 650k and aiming for 100k. I don't know if I need to keep playing it safe and template, which worked, but it seems that most of the risks I thought about and passes on worked well. I get what you mean. When you're having a bit of a poor season or things don't seem to be going your way, you start to doubt yourself. Should I just play it safe? Do I take risks? It kind of sometimes feels that maybe nothing will work no matter what you do. But I think it's a mixture. So you can just play it safe, say, with players like Estupinian, Ben Mee, Ivan Toney will be really popular in 27. But one thing I will say, don't focus too much on double game weeks. Of course, we all love a double game week. There's always the promise of a huge haul, but they can be misleading. Look at this week so far. A lot of doubles this season, haven't been the greatest unless you have a really informed player and team like Man United and Rashford. So I would probably be a bit careful with that, but I'd probably say playing it safe, there's nothing wrong with it. You can get steady returns. I've had steady returns since Game Week 17, of course. It hasn't worked out in the last 3 game weeks, but things change very quickly, and I think it has come to a stage where my own situation, my own squad, there are some big issues that need addressing now. I've already taken a -8 with Matoma, me, and Estupinian, so should I wait to bring in Watkins or Tony? Yeah, I'd wait. And once again with Tony, why bring him in now when he could easily get a yellow now in 26 and then be a suspension risk for the second game in double game at 27? Do you think Liverpool UCL journey is over? Look, there is a chance. You never know in football. Remember last season, Madrid had a really big lead at Stamford Bridge. Second game, Chelsea really took it to Real Madrid and almost went through. We've had so many cases in the past as well. Real Madrid against Juventus. Juventus were making a comeback. Then Madrid get a last-minute penalty, which was very suspect. So you just never know. But I think Madrid go through. I said this when the draw was announced. And I think Liverpool won't win a trophy this season, which is obviously seems quite simple to say. I thought Champions League would have been a decent chance actually this season. But yeah, I think Liverpool will be knocked out. Yeah. Yeah, it's been an unbelievable game week. Darwin owners have been unlucky. I've always said this. I don't really like him as an FPL option. Long term, I don't trust him. But a lot of people brought him in simply to fund other moves like Sal and Robertson or Trent, which I'd done as well. So I don't really blame people for doing that. And I wouldn't really regret it too much as well. Thank you to everyone who has been tuning in. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. I'll answer a few more questions and comments before wrapping up. It will be a bit of a short stream today. And of course, a lot can change before we get to the next deadline. We're going to have a deadline stream on Saturday and also more FPL and UCL fantasy content over the next week or two. So keep an eye out for that as well. Yeah, Everton was such a trap. I'll be honest, I thought they'd keep a clean sheet against Aston Villa. And that's why I brought in Tarkovsky. He also covers Gameweek 28 in the case that I wanted to save the free hit for later on. So, look, it made sense why I brought him in. I don't regret it too much, but yeah, maybe we were sold dreams by Everton assets. Good question, Wei saying. Which channel do I watch recently? I've mainly been watching gaming videos, to be honest. So not necessarily one channel specifically that I'm watching. Trying to think, any football channels? I always see like a football video here and there, but mainly highlights. So maybe Sky Sports Fantasy Football, or Fantasy Football. Sky Sports Football, I guess that would be one. You think getting one or two Brighton players could be useful, even if it means I have to start them in Gameweek 28 and won't get points out of them? It's still useful. I think Estupiñán and Mitoma are the two best options for sure. They've got the highest ceiling. Estupiñán has been really consistent recently. Mitoma's got a high ceiling as well. He was showing excellent form since the World Cup. So those would be the two I'd go for. But would I go for a triple up? No. And I also wouldn't go for a triple up in Brentford unless you're absolutely set on a free and 28. And in that case, you can maximize Gameweek 27 as a result. And then maybe wildcard out that situation in Gameweek 29. So yeah, I think it's worth it, even if they blank in Gameweek 28, which is likely. But I'd be a bit careful. And you need to also determine or have a good idea of when you're going to use your chips, even if you don't nail on one strategy per se. Mbappe scores again, fair enough. I think Marseille, well, obviously it was a tough game. They're title rivals, and of course the game's just started, but quite surprised to see PSG already start so well. I'm one of the most optimistic fans and always believe I think we have a chance against Madrid, but getting 3-0 to Real away with our defensive midfield will be so hard. Yeah, look, it's not impossible, of course, and if this was Liverpool last season, I'd say, honestly, I would not rule out at all. And look, I think form's a big thing. Madrid haven't been that great. You know, they dropped points to Atletico despite, some questionable decisions in their favour yesterday. And in the league, they've been very inconsistent. But in the Champions League, they're a different animal. And yeah, I just don't see Madrid not scoring, basically. And if that's the case, you need to score 4, 5, and I just don't see that happening. Is Trent a sell or keep? I would keep Trent, I think, over the next 4 or 5. After Gameweek 29, though, I think he is a sell. Trent I'm keeping unless he's benched next game. Yeah, that's fair. And once again, for bonus points, he's obviously a machine. Very unlucky not to get that goal. That was blocked by Jordan Henderson too. Stevens says, who do I bench in the next game week between Rashford, Odegaard, Mitoma, Saka, Gakpo and Felix? Gakpo. I think that's pretty simple there. Have Kane and Haaland up front and benching Trippier as well. Yeah, that's fair. I would bench Gakpo though. Kane as a season keeper. Yes, I've said this all along and I got rid of him for Nunez. Jesus Christ, what am I doing? Favourite food in England? If you're talking about English food, it's just fish and chips, isn't it? Because my favourite food overall would be Italian. I like Indian as well. Mexican, Latin food in general. But yeah, English food, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit ignorant there. Yorkshire pudding's nice, I guess. Yeah, I think that would be the one. I have to reconsider that. Maybe someone in the comments will give me a better answer. Me, Tony, if he goes without yellow, Estupiñán, Mitoma. You've nailed it. Those are the 4 that I'd go for. And if you were to go for a goalkeeper, it would be Raya. And I would favour Brentford defensively more than Brighton, even if you could argue the fixtures are better for Brighton. But you've nailed it. Those are the 4 best options for sure. I was asked this earlier by Mackenzie, and I don't watch boxing, especially YouTube boxing and all of that. I'm honestly not sure. If I had to pick one, I'm not even going to pick one, actually, because I just don't know enough. Nketiah Bueno out for Tony and Estupiñán for a -4. I like those moves. It's worth a -4. But that's a good question. I think I would do it. My main concern is Tony. If he gets a yellow, you're in big trouble potentially for Gameweek 27 and he could miss a game. Yeah, I've seen some people saying Tommy Fury. I mean, I might just go for that, but honestly, I can't say. I can't really say. Yeah, Messi scored. Is it 2-0 then? Jesus. All right. I was not expecting that. I thought Marseille would score quite early on, maybe give them some trouble. Other hobbies: reading books, watching films, great films, shows, playing video games. Yeah, those things I like. Yeah, I'd say those are the main things. There's obviously some other stuff as well, but I'd say those are the main ones. And also, I do like playing football, though I haven't done it recently, but I love that. And yeah, I'd probably say those are my favourite things to do. Man, I just hope we win. Wolves this season have been highs and lows. I don't know what to expect. Yeah, normally at Anfield, it's kind of a given. You say Liverpool are going to win, but this is kind of a different season for Liverpool, one that they weren't expecting, and you're not used to, given all your recent success. You know, Crystal Palace is normally a team Liverpool beat with ease, and yet they struggle to score goals against them. 0-0. Drew at Anfield as well. What do you think about Babylon? I actually haven't watched it. In terms of recent films, I haven't seen too many. I like more of the old school kind of films. I'm trying to think of a film that I've seen recently that came out. Jesus, what was it? Probably The Banshee of Inisherin? Yeah, like, honestly, I haven't seen too many films that have been released recently. I think Watkins is a better option than Tony because of the yellow. Now, honestly, in general, I think Watkins right now, given his form, the fact he doesn't blank in Game Week 28 and doubles in 29, he would be my preference. I'd rather bring in Watkins, but when you're buying someone right now and or should I say Tony has a double coming up right in front of you, that's why Tony's going to be the more popular option of the two. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Watkins right now is looking slightly better. What video games do you like to play? Well, I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy, but Witcher 3 is like one of my favorite games of all time, which I'm still playing for like the third time. God of War Ragnarok I got when it was released, and yeah, I mean those are like really good games I played recently, but really God of War Ragnarok and Witcher 3 would be the standouts. English food, I'm American. I've had that English breakfast, steak and kidney pie. Yeah, English breakfast is good to be fair, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of English cuisine, I'll say that, but of course English breakfast is nice, steak and all that, mince pies, whatever it is. Just haven't had too much of it though, so maybe that's really it. The Banshee of Inisherin was incredible. Yeah, it's quite unique. Obviously, the characters seem a bit childish or whatever it may be, but it was good acting and kind of a unique setting as well. What team do you support and who's your favourite player? I support Arsenal in the Premier League and Argentina, my national team. Argentina has given me the most joy recently, that's for sure. Favourite player is probably Messi. From the Arsenal ranks, I said Odegaard recently. He'd probably be my favourite, the way he plays, but I really like Saka as well. He's so consistent and deserves a lot more credit. Also on Gladiator, the film. Oh, it's one of the best films of all time, no doubt about it. Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, Russell Crowe, and also some actors that are no longer with us, but they were also great. I mean, yeah, that's the music as well makes it too. What's up with F1? I'm not really a big fan, but I like the streams understated a bit. Yeah, in terms of F1, so I don't think I'm going to be making F1 fantasy content. There just really isn't a big enough demand for that, and of course we're focusing on FPL and UCL fantasy. But in terms of F1, yeah, hopefully there's a bit more competition this season. We always get promise, of like some big title fight, and it rarely happens. Of course, 2 years ago we got one of the best ever, but it's very rare. And let's wait and see. Hopefully Alonso versus Verstappen will be, going for the title, and maybe one or two more in the mix, like Hamilton, Leclerc. I don't want Hamilton to win, I'll be honest, because he's already won so much, but I would like to see 4 or 5 different drivers competing, but I wouldn't be too sure about that. English and cuisine in the same sentence, damn, okay. Gourmet dessert, yeah, that's not too bad as well, to be fair. I remember the suit on the video. Wait, what? Oh, really? Hi, have you ever gone fishing? Great for clearing the mind and lovely nature. No, I've never gone fishing. And to be honest, I don't... I mean, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I do eat fish, but I just don't see myself fishing, to be honest. I love planning FPL when fishing. Mine is more open for me outside in the nature. I probably need to fish then, because my recent decisions in FPL have been awful. But yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And maybe one day, you never know. The only fishing I've done is in Red Dead Redemption, so that gives you a good answer there. Everyone got pranked by Darwin. To be fair, he's still got another game, and it's still unlucky. The fact he didn't play at all. If he started and blanked, that's fair enough. But the fact he was injured and, it looked like it was fine, scored against Madrid, good performance, it kind of caught everyone off guard when we got the news before the game started. 29 points, says Car. I thought you got more than that, to be fair. I thought you put a comment earlier that you got more. Thanks for the stream, Dylan. Until next time, thank you, Sub Gold. I'll see you very soon. Also, an Old Boy, one of my favorite, or my free 10 out of 10 films, along with Scarface and The Prestige. I don't think I've seen Old Boy. There's still quite a lot of films I haven't seen, and I need to, like City of God and stuff like that. Scarface, yeah, another one of my favorite films. The Prestige. Christopher Nolan's a genius. So yeah, you've named some of my favorite films as well. I think Everton, Southampton, and Bournemouth go down. I still think Everton will stay up despite the recent defeat. I think Sean Dyche will do just about enough to keep them up. I think Southampton and Bournemouth, I said this a few weeks ago too. The third team would be Leeds, potentially, especially with the managerial appointment. I'm not too convinced about that. Into the live stream of the suit. Oh yeah, I did it once. Yeah. I remember that now. I remember what you're saying. Maybe one day, maybe for a special occasion, 20,000 subscribers, we could have a suit stream, or if Arsenal win the league, you know, that'll be I'd rather have that, of course, but yeah, no, I'm getting ahead of myself there. Maybe I should make my FPL team looking at my fish tank. Wow, fair enough. That's not a bad suggestion there. To be fair, it's quite relaxing and it eases your mind, maybe prevents overthinking. Is Julian replacing KDB? No, I don't think so. Obviously, it's just his first start. Obviously, played a big part in the goals, but no, I wouldn't say that. KDB will still start most games, but I wouldn't go from an FPL right now. Yeah, I'm considering it. Right now, my captain is Saka, but the alternatives are Haaland and Rashford, and depending on what happens midweek, that's where I might even deviate and go towards Rashford. Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of movies that deserve a lot more attention and stuff. Some of my friends don't really like, you know, old school films. They just watch what's coming out now, Marvel and stuff. So yeah. Do you still work as an editor? No, I have a different job right now, Wasting, but I'm not going to disclose any details just for security reasons, I'll say. I would like to see Russell win a few races, hopefully, and Leclerc to win the title, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, historically, I'm a Ferrari fan, especially because of Michael Schumacher, but last season I was kind of supporting Max just because he reminds me of Schumacher, the way he drives and stuff, but I would like to see something different instead of Verstappen now winning every single year, which is what Hamilton was doing before. So really my preference would be Alonso winning his third title, but yeah, that's probably a step too far. Thoughts on Potter with his golden boy Havertz? It is a bit strange. I just don't even know why he's starting games, to be honest. Even Aubameyang, who's been out of favour, whatever you can say about him, he's a better striker than Havertz. He should have stayed at Barcelona. But yeah, with Havertz, he can have the occasional horn and all of that, but I just wouldn't consider him an FPL. And as for Potter, my main issue with his selection today was Badiashile left out of the squad, or not in the starting 11. I didn't understand that at all. I mean, I wouldn't lock it in just yet, Wayseng, but it is possible. Could you suggest some differential picks for the following weeks? I'll try to do that right now before wrapping up. A good way to wrap it up, talking about differentials, which sometimes we don't do enough of. Whenever I am asked and prompted, I do go through the transfer section and go through the ownership. Thanks for the stream and all your hard work, Dylan. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I'll see you very soon as well. Yes, where you're saying, obviously, look, it kind of goes on and off in terms of work. But yes, I do put a lot of time into the research and stuff. But look, so does everyone else who makes the videos. So I won't. Thank you very much for the kind words, of course, but I'm not the only one. I'll put it that way. You think Chelsea will rise like United and Arsenal under Potter? I did say a few months ago I would give Potter time, and I think it can still work out. Look at Arteta. There's so many examples throughout European football, but it's difficult because Chelsea are a club used to success over the last 20 years. They're not a patient fan base. I think the one thing that can work in his favour is the fact that he is Ted Bowley's man. You know, Bowley sacked Tuchel, which was an unpopular decision, and brought in Potter. And I think he might be a bit persistent and stubborn as a result and give him just a bit more time than usual. If it was Abramovich, he'd be gone already. We all know that. Yeah, I'm watching Last of Us. The next episode will be out tomorrow in the UK. So yeah, I'll watch that. I think it's been good so far. There are some things I prefer in the games, but in terms of video game adaptations, it's probably one of the best I've seen. Video game to show adaptations for sure. Ori says, I love Havertz. I don't even know why he's one of my favourite players, but he doesn't succeed at Chelsea. I think, yeah, you say it there. He's not a number 9. At Bayer Leverkusen, he was playing just behind the number 9 as an attacking midfielder / floating, centre forward. So I do agree with you there. I remember seeing him against Argentina, scored in a friendly 2-2 draw. And yeah, he had so much potential, but I just don't see him fulfilling it. Then again, he still scored the Champions League winning goal against Man City, which I'm still shocked by. Chelsea are over in FPL terms. I still think Kepa's a good option and Badiashile in defence, but yeah, Mudryk, Enzo Fernandez, I never liked them as an FPL option. Felix, not to mention Reece James and Chilwell, just not worth it at the moment. Also making video with gathering data from viewers through polls, etc. Yeah, that is a possibility. I'm open to different types of content. If people want to see it and there's a demand, then of course I will be open to it, and it'll be something different. I like doing some different stuff sometimes. That's why I've done World Cup fantasy content, UCL, and also F1 fantasy at a time as well. Hi Dylan, please rank 5 of your favorite TV shows. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to go into the differentials question after this, because yeah, I've left that hanging for a bit. But yeah, top 5 shows. Difficult to put in order, but Sopranos is probably my favorite. Breaking Bad, The Wire. I like Game of Thrones a lot until season 6. After that, it was very lackluster. But the first 4 seasons especially were amazing. And as a big fan of fantasy genre and Lord of the Rings, you know, that's why I kind of naturally gravitated towards that. But would I put Game of Thrones in my top 5? It's difficult because I've got Dark in there, Better Call Saul. So difficult. I'm watching The Last Kingdom right now, and it's one of my favorites. So yeah, it's difficult to say a top 5. I know my top 3. That's not changing. I think I'd put... do I put Better Call Saul there? Yeah, I think I put Better Call Saul in my top 5, and possibly Dark. And there's a possibility that The Last Kingdom creeps into my top 5 too. So let's go through this question as well. The differentials question. So which differentials would you recommend for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I believe it was. So let's go into that now. Let's sort this out by ownership, and let's try to give you a good answer here. So in terms of defenders, apologies for that. Yeah, Stupinian, quite low ownership at the moment. Of course, that will increase. I don't expect him to be a differential by the time we get to Game Week 27, but 4.5% ownership right now. You know, really consistent recently. I'd say he's a really good option. I'd say Rico Henry too. And anyone else? I mean, you could say Mings. I'd say Davis from Spurs. You know, he's the top scoring defender this season. Got a booking today, of course, but a few attacking returns. I think he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. So in terms of defenders, there's Stupinian, Rico Henry, and Ben Davis. What's Ben Mee's ownership? 12.2. So yeah, less of a differential. Midfielders, I'd say Maddison if he's fit. I like him a lot. Solly March as well, especially if everyone clamours towards Mitoma. And to be fair, I'm also looking at getting Mitoma very soon. Anyone else? In terms of midfielders, I mean, to be fair, 2 names is already a decent amount. But Jarrod Bowen, if West Ham, if you're backing a revival there, and for them to build upon their 4-0 victory yesterday. So yeah, those would be some names there. And in terms of forwards, to conclude this, already off the top of my head, I think Watkins is a good differential. 6.2% ownership. He's going to become popular. Over 10% ownership very soon. But right now, really good time to get him in. I can see him continuing and getting 2 or 3 goals over the next 5 game weeks for sure. So yeah, Watkins, and the other forward to conclude would be... I still like Iheanacho, to be quite frank. I still think he's a good option. So yeah, those would be some options for you there. Let me know if you got that. The person who asked about differentials, I think it was... yeah, it was Lulian. So yeah, hopefully you got that. Yeah, True Detective. Ah, yes, that's a really good shout. Yeah. Yeah, the first season of True Detective, it's up there with the top 3 I mentioned, potentially. If it maintained that level throughout seasons 2 and 3, I would have put that in my top 5. I do love the crime genre as well. So that's a good shout. Sherlock is another really good show, too, which I haven't seen in a long time. So maybe if I watched it again recently, I'd maybe put it in my top 5. I've got no idea why every manager forces Havertz to be a 9. Yeah, I'd actually rather put Felix number 9 and Havertz in behind him. Yeah, The Last Kingdom. Yeah, of course you say that, of course. All credit goes to Greg Spence, says Carr. Fair enough. It's not clicking in my head right now what you mean, but it probably will very soon. I love Dark. So did I. It was a very unique show. And it was frustrating sometimes because you had these constant, you know, going to the present, the future, and then back to the past. But yeah, I loved it as well. Do I get rid of Felix this week for Tony, or do I wait a week? I'd wait a week. Not just because of that, because I'm not a big fan of Chelsea offensively. I've always said this. But the main reason is to also see if Tony gets through Game Week 26 unscathed. If he gets a yellow, he's a really big concern in Game Week 27 to be suspended. That kind of video would be interesting as you just read out what the community think. Yeah, and also I like to put up polls, you know that. So yeah, that could also be something on the horizon as well. Yeah, Ben Mee has been great this season. Probably a contender for one of the best centre-backs in this campaign. Oh, Mindhunter, yeah, that was really good as well. Only 2 seasons, unfortunately. So many. Do I watch anime? No. Attack on Titan is on my list. I know that's great. There's a few other shows as well. The names escape me, but there's a lot of great animes out there. I used to watch as a kid, you know, Beyblade and stuff, but I'm not sure you'd count as an anime. Pokemon. But yeah, don't really remember too much, actually. I haven't seen Criminal Minds. No, I haven't seen that. Thank you, Lillian. I appreciate that. And obviously, in future videos and streams, we can go back to this and maybe we'll have some updates. But I appreciate you asking that because differentials are really important. Leeds versus Chelsea next. Yeah, I would back Chelsea to keep a clean sheet, but to score goals, maybe 1 or 2. Chelsea only scored a single goal whole February. Yeah, it was a great goal, by the way, the Joao Felix one. The Last of Us gaming adaptation. Yeah, in terms of gaming adaptations, films or shows, Last of Us is the best so far, by some distance as well. And to be fair, it's not saying much because, I mean, I remember seeing Prince of Persia, which I had fun watching, Uncharted, but they're not really memorable films. They're not great. There's some things they don't really, they kind of lack, really. There's a crime series called Mayor of Easttown. Good one too. I'll keep an eye out, and obviously I appreciate people putting some suggestions because after Last Kingdom, I need to find a show to watch. Congrats on Felix winning goal of the month effortlessly. Jesus, wasting. You wouldn't think you're a Chelsea fan. You're sending more shots to Chelsea than I do. I've held Havertz and Mudryk up to the Spurs game. Now do I hold to the Leeds game? So, Chat Sport, if you've got only 1 free transfer, I would hold, roll it, and then in Game Week 27, I'd get rid of both, Mudryk to Matoma, and then Havertz to either Watkins or Tony. So yeah, I definitely would keep them for Game Week 26 if you have only 1 free transfer, because I wouldn't want to take hits to make both of them, basically. So if you got that, I'd probably hold, especially because you've kept them for so long. You've got the Leeds game coming up. I do see Chelsea winning it by a goal or 2, which does sound surprising. Yeah, Luther. Another one is Dexter, which people say is good. I need to see it. Lost is another show people mention. The Walking Dead, I haven't seen, actually. Mbeumo or Tony? Tony. Mbeumo's not a bad substitute for him, but I still prefer Tony, despite him not being that great since the World Cup, to be fair. But if he gets a goal, Tony, he's very, very likely to get into the bonus points, get 8 or 9, and that is already a really good haul in that double. So, yeah, Tony for me, but the yellow cards will always be a big risk. Yeah, in that case, I probably would hold. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of either. Mudryk didn't even start today, but I think it is worth maybe keeping them and having more information, having the 2 free transfers in 27. If you're not setting a wild card very soon, then definitely I would probably hold and then make the transfers in 27. I just spelled out what every Chelsea fan is thinking. Yeah, I went through that as an Arsenal fan, and look, it could even happen next year. You never know. Liverpool fans were on top of the world last year. Now they're struggling. I mean, football's a funny game, and a month or 2 months is a quick time in football. Yep, thank you for that, 86 Rem. I guess Potter has only 2 games left as the ultimatum to save his spot. Yeah, if they're eliminated from the Champions League and they still struggle in the league, they don't beat Leeds, I think he's gone. But the reports, according to some reliable journalists like Ben Jacobs, is the fact that Potter will be given time and that Chelsea will not be making a managerial change just yet. And that wouldn't surprise me too much, simply because it's a new owner. It was his decision to sack Tuchel and get Potter in, so he might be a bit stubborn in terms of that. But Chelsea fans are already losing patience. I don't see many supporters of him right now. And yeah, every single game we go through, it seems more likely he's going to be sacked. But thank you to everyone for watching this video, or the stream, whatever you want to call it. I appreciate it. And all the movie talk, whatever it was. Talking about the doubles as well, the upcoming Game Week 26 too. Thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel. Also smash the like button. Thank you, Mackenzie. Huge shout out to you for the very generous donations today. I very much appreciate it, mate. And I even don't mind giving it back because honestly, it was way too much. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much to everyone for watching. You can see my Twitter and Instagram on screen, DylanRCM. And also check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the channel memberships, the Discord server, all of that stuff. And I also encourage you to check out another fantasy game. So let me just get the link right here. And I think you'll know who it is because we have mentioned it in recent videos too. and that is Sorare. So be sure to check it out if you want to see another fantasy game. You don't need to spend money to play it, and I can show you in future streams and videos more stuff as well. So click that link, sign up, and you can also enjoy another fantasy game which is quite innovative as well. So be sure to check that out, and we can go through that in more detail in the future too. Yeah, Death Note, that is the one that escaped me. Attack on Titan, I think, is the highest rated. I know someone who hated anime before, and I told him, okay, maybe you're being a bit harsh, and now he's the biggest anime lover ever. So he definitely ate his words there. I do not agree. I think Potter will stay at least until the end of the season. Yeah, I think, look, in terms of, if it was a COVID season or something, no fans, then yeah, I agree with you. But I think the fans could be quite telling. If there's empty seats, if there's, booing every game, the results are still poor, the football, there's no, identity or progression, then I still think Ted Boehly will ultimately sack him, potentially. Thank you, Badr, as well. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chatsport. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Wei Seng. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. We're going to have more streams and videos coming up very soon for FPL and UCL Fantasy. So I'll see you very soon. And good luck for Gameweek 25. Let's see if those of us that are doing badly will have a good end to this amazing game week. So thank you very much. I'll see you very soon.